That night at the beginning of the journey, he just watched as she descended against the backdrop of the shining moon.
saving cities from hordes of demons and monsters. The
The man said he shouldn't have been so greedy and gone so far into the mountains. The hero anxiously asked if he was all right. The man shouted that behind that boy was a bear. He jumped over him and did not fall into his claws. The man rejoiced that the boy was here and asked who he was. The hero said he thought so. The bear was wounded. The stranger said that thanks to the hero, it was only a scratch. The animal had internal injuries and broken ribs, the lungs were damaged, so it went mad. The man asks him what he is doing, and the stranger calls the bear a servant of the demon lord and an enemy of all humanity. The main hero replied, "He is truly a monster, but now he is my patient."
the boy realized that her appearance gave him a chance to prove himself and show his.
He sincerely apologized to the animal for his rudeness and decided to retreat, let the rest heal on its own. The man shouted that he would be killed. He asked the animal if everything was all right and then said that he understood everything. He asked the man if he had any bear eggs. The stranger began to deny it. The main character said that it was a rare bear with eggs, and he was angry at him for taking his cubs. The man asked if that was why he came for him, and the boy, though wounded, replied that he did not know. The stranger told the hero that he guessed supposedly he was the one who stole his eggs, and the boy replied that those eggs also have feelings. He said that if you really listen, you can hear the quiet voice of animals. Now he needs to drive around the district, so he will give him a ride to the base. The man said that the hero has extraordinary strength, healing abilities, and understanding of monsters. The boy introduced himself as Zik Vitalinari and said that he was a veterinarian. The hero used the restoration skill. Now the cows shone with health. The owners thanked him and said that now they owed him. The girl asked what that light was, and the man smiled and replied that it was the hero's skill, so he was not an ordinary person at all. She asked if she would have the same abilities, and the man replied that he had already told her she would not be able to do what he did. The main heroine said that it did not matter whether she had abilities, the main thing was her desire to help. He was asked not to be modest. He was an excellent specialist and perhaps even surpassed his father. The boy said that he was far from his father, the father was much better. The hero reported that his father had died a long time ago. The girl apologized to him. The boy replied that it was okay since it was long ago. Zik turned to him and said that since he had saved the cow, now he was worried about something completely different. The barn is well ventilated, but that big pile blocks the airflow, so it needs to be cleaned more often, and the body in the far corner is even more hunched and emaciated than last time. He thinks it should be moved somewhere farther away. The main hero anxiously asked how the feed was distributed. It seemed to him that too much concentrate was added. The animals moved slowly and breathed heavily. It was clear they had clearly overeaten and become too fat. Each had their own orders from above. He was sure they wanted to fatten the animals, but thought they did not intend to drive the family into trouble. The man insisted that he was completely right. He had received the order last month and had not had time to fulfill it. At that very moment, someone called the hero. He said that he had been at the Eastern Ranch and was just conducting a routine inspection. The man began to shout at him and exclaimed that all of this would only take 30 minutes. The boy said that it was true, but it took too much effort. The man said that the hero always found excuses and did not understand why waste time on them if they would be slaughtered for meat anyway. In any case, he asked him to return as soon as possible, and the boy agreed. The girl noticed how hard the work was for the hero. He said he was already used to it. That man said it was terrible. Everyone knew how hard he worked, but those rich people and aristocrats seemed not to care. The hero was not surprised by their indifference to animals. The owner said that under the new king, animal husbandry in the country had declined, and only one veterinarian remained. They were lucky to have the hero, but he himself wanted them to leave and take their talent far away. Here it was a waste of time. The main hero said he could not just abandon everyone. The man replied that even if he said so, he should think about himself too. The boy said he was glad to hear that. He said the minister was furious, so it was better for him to get out of there. He would return, so he asked to look after everyone. Zik suggested to his dragon, "Let's go back home." The animal was raging, and the boy did not understand what was wrong with it. The hero saw that the dragon heard his call and sincerely thanked him. He thought about leaving the country for a better fate, but he cannot abandon such people. If you think about it, where he was, it was not so bad after all. The main hero asks the dragon, what happened? Suddenly they began to descend rapidly. That guy asked him to wait because the capital was in another country. Zik saw something lying on the ground and thought it was a dog. She was wounded. He thanked the dragon for noticing her. The animal had cuts and bruises, but nothing serious. The hero applied the skill of medical examination. The dog's blood was filled with poisons, and the guy realized that ogres had attacked her. He said that she would be fine because he was a doctor. The hero put the skill of dosing into action. Zik said that they would just give her an injection, and she would immediately feel better, so he asked her not to move. The boy noticed that the dog had well-groomed and soft fur. She did not look wild at all, so he was surprised that she ended up in such a place. Ogres appeared and the boy realized they were hunting the dog. He asked why were they chasing her if they didn't even intend to eat her. The ogres lunged at him, and the boy didn't even notice that they weren't listening to him. The hero rushed in response, launching an attack. He admitted that he didn't want to harm them if he could avoid it. But they still charged at him, and he decided to fight back. The main hero used the skill paralysis. Then he activated the ability sleep. These were two medical skills, but in such cases they proved to be extremely useful. Now the puppy was safe. He began to sincerely thank him. Suddenly she slipped out of his hands. The boy decided that it was a monster and thought that he was saying something himself. He smiled and said that she seemed to be feeling better already, so the details were not important and suggested that his dragon go home. The king calmly told him that he was dismissed. The boy was extremely surprised. He began to ask why he was dismissed. The king said that the prime minister reported to him he incurred colossal expenses that far exceed his needs. The man said that everything was exactly so. For many, cattle are just animals. They are raised to be eaten later. Those who spend money only on treating such animals bring only harm, not benefit. The prime minister said that the hero justifies himself supposedly out of concern for health and ecology allegedly. If the animals disappear, a few offspring will be enough. If they get rid of him, reduce unnecessary expenses, and finally be able to invest these funds in the future of the kingdom. The king asked the boy if he had anything to say. The hero bowed his head and quietly asked, if that is so, forgive him. He said that firstly, animal husbandry is not as simple as the minister says. Without proper management, productivity will be unstable, otherwise everything could be ruined due to the spread of diseases. He was also entrusted with managing monster units serving in the national army. Special methods are needed to tame the natural rage of hexen beasts, otherwise the country will pay with human lives and irreparable material losses. The king said that perhaps he himself did not know this, but recently a useful magical tool was invented. The minister said that it was just a training tool you put it on, and pets and magical beasts will obey your will. He said that by using such an item, they treat animals as objects, and if they continue to trample on their feelings and dignity, one day it will inevitably lead to disaster. The prime minister began to mock the main hero. The king called the boy's words nonsense and said that he deserved punishment for all the damage caused to the country and for numerous mistakes and false claims of skill, but acknowledged his work and decided to pardon him as he deserved. The king ordered the main hero to be exiled from the country. The boy was sure that he had done everything to take his father's place, but the world went mad when the new king ascended the throne. The dragon tried to comfort him. The boy noticed this. Animals must not be thrown away. They are beings with feelings and hearts that support friends in difficult moments. The hero said, "Victory is mine." He said that it looked very beautiful. The girl said that she missed him and now owed him. The girl introduced herself. "My name is Tiffany," and asked to be called briefly. The boy invited her to come into the house. He asked if she was the puppy he had saved. The girl quietly nodded, confirming it. The hero sharply said that because of her ears and tail, she looked like a monster. He said that he was saving an ordinary puppy, not a girl like her. The girl transformed into a puppy and with hope in her voice asked, "Do you believe me now?" He said he had never heard of such a monster that can transform into a human. Tiffany said she was not a monster. She asked him if he knew about god monsters, and he simply answered, no. The girl said that this monster has existed since ancient times and is equal to the gods, and the one who rules them is called the king of the divine beasts. She is the daughter of the king of the divine beast himself, and she came to invite him. Neutralizing is the land of water, greenery, and beasts, ruled by the divine beast king. Its land needs his loving hand, and he extended this hand to an unknown monster he met on the way. The boy sighed, "I can't do much. If she asks him for help, he will help her. He was just deported, so her offer came just in time." He said, "Wait for him at home." The boy's body began to glow. The girl said that the contract was concluded. The one who made a pact with the divine beast will unleash his hidden power and become even stronger. She said that if he has any questions, he can ask them. That boy said that it was time to prepare. The girl lay down on his bed. She asked, "Do you want me to sleep with you?" The hero said that he would miss this, but he could no longer stay in that country. The newly named Kelpies appeared before Zeke, bathing in divine light, and transformed into majestic creatures resembling mermaids, completely losing their previous form. The heroes, frozen in amazement, look at the creatures that just appeared. Zeke, looking at them, asks he recognizes familiar Kelpie features. Everyone stands tensely, watching the unexpected transformation. One of the new creatures sincerely thanks Zeke for the name, explaining that it caused an inner rebirth in them. They completely changed their essence and acquired a new way of existing. The being promises to become even more useful to Zeke and the princess. Sincere gratitude and devotion are evident on his face. It is clear that he is truly serious about serving his rescuers. The girls excitedly discuss what happened, admiring how divine the Kelpie forms have become, marveling at the result no one expected, and overwhelmed by the grandeur of her new form. Tiffany joyfully exclaims, "The miracle happened only because Zeke named these creatures." For her, this is an incredible discovery that turns the usual notion of magical beings upside down. The younger sister of the main character jokingly reminds him that Zeke also formalized Kaicha with her name. She asks again, embarrassed, until the meaning of what was said slowly dawns on her. She did not expect this. Kaichen got angry and accused Mint of humiliating her again, while Mint coldly smiled and said that no matter how strong her brother is, everything depends on what is written in the original. The princess of the animal kingdom thoughtfully says that Zeke has already named someone like that. She tries to remember exactly who, looks away, and quietly reminds him of this, while tense lines in the background create a sense of something important approaching. Zeke, hearing the address, raises his head in surprise. A barely noticeable confusion flashes across his face, and his reply sounds both surprised and questioning. He does not immediately understand to whom exactly it was addressed. Suddenly, a young girl jumps on Zeke and hugs him tightly. Others only watch this unexpected act. The scene bursts into motion, and Zeke is confused and tries to understand who attacked him. The scene bursts into motion, and Zeke is confused and tries to understand who attacked him. She clings tightly to Zeke and looks at him with a serious expression, her large eyes full of emotion. Zeke in response calls her name in surprise, realizing who is in front of him. Above them in the sky appears the figure of the Dragon Lord. Zeke raises his eyes with slight surprise, not immediately believing that the Lord stands before him. He majestically hovers in the air and confirms with words that he is truly the Lord. When the Lord descended to the ground, Zeke met him with a question why he appeared, and the Lord explained that the time had come for an event to take place. The dragon explained that he came for the evolution of She. His voice was calm and confident. This only reinforced what was said, and the characters listened attentively to his explanation. Zeke looks at She and recalls that he really gave her a name. A slight smile appears on his face, and he says the name aloud, understanding the meaning of what was said. Zeke thought in surprise, can a girl really evolve so easily? The dragon began to explain that their kind dragons had much stronger magical vessels than most magical beasts. Even their small wings were much more developed than those of other creatures. Having listened to the explanation, Zeke calmly agrees. A slight smile plays on his face, and his words sound as if he understood everything. Calm prevails around. Zeke gently strokes She's head, noting that once she was a cute little dragoness, and now she has grown into a beautiful girl. He eagerly looks forward to continuing work with her and sincerely rejoices in her changes and growth. She raised her eyes, they shine with joy and warmth. She feels Zeke's care and support and smiles slightly, because the touch of his hand is a sign of approval and faith in the future. With a radiant smile, She tells Zeke that she certainly agrees. She approves his words and gladly accepts the offer to continue working, and her face shines with joy and gratitude for that care. And at that moment, Kai and Mint begin to react anxiously. Mint, tense, tells Shai to stay away from him, and Kai-chan advises him to greet the elders first, because Shea wants to join Zeke's retinue. Zeke, with a slight smile, wonders what happened to the girls, noticing their nervousness. Meanwhile, the Lord laughs, noticing that his presence pressures the people around. Shea reacts with surprise when Zeke says that her evolution will be tracked, and is even more surprised when she realizes that now Zeke is responsible for her development. She is a bit puzzled. Zeke calmed everyone down, explaining that they are not shirking responsibility for her development needs a push, and he will give it. Everyone felt the seriousness of the moment and agreed. Alina sincerely rejoices for Shea, truly happy for her successes, and everyone around continues to watch, feeling how important this moment is for the little dragon. Shea shyly hugs Alina and confesses her affection. Alina is a little surprised by the unexpectedness, but her face shines with joy and slight embarrassment from such sincere tenderness. The Lord, observing the scene, feels that Shai's friendship with the demon princess arose because of her closeness to Zeke. Without his support and influence, this would never have happened. When he was asked if he had heard about the island Anagosima, Zeke replied confusedly that he had never heard of it, and the one who asked immediately, with passionate enthusiasm, began to tell about this place. The dragon explains that it is a picturesque small island in the southern seas, full of magic, and even says that there is a place there where Shea can swim. Zik hears this with surprise. Zik approached Mint, asked if she knew anything about the island, and Mint confirmed that this place is known for tourist routes and pilgrimages to so-called places of power. Mint adds that recently there have been strange rumors it is supposedly dangerous there, and a slight worry is visible on her face as she says this. The dragon reassures he recently saw the island himself and says that it is still calm and beautiful. He is sorry and apologizes for his mistake. It is hard to argue with an eyewitness. The dragon said confidently that Shay would definitely like the island and suggested the group go there on their own if they wanted. Mint agreed with the proposal. A little separation would definitely benefit Zik and his tired brother, and in the background, everyone immediately accepted this news with joy and anticipation. Tiffany is glowing with joy. She cheerfully says that everyone will go together and is already eagerly awaiting this moment. They approach Alina and ask if she will go with them. She is surprised and a little embarrassed, asking if they are sure she should join. T happily extends a hand to Alina and with a smile says that they are friends and will have a great time together, inviting her to join without any hesitation. Olner, again surprised, asks if she can really become their friend, her eyes full of emotion. This is a new and exciting feeling for her. Zik confidently says that he will continue to train Alina. During the journey, the training is not over yet, and everyone else gladly agrees with this. Happy and touched, Elaine with tears of joy in her eyes smiles and says she agrees to go with them. Mild and Shay with serious faces warn Alina about the rules. You can't hide from their gaze, and they will have to watch each other all the time, while Zik tries to negotiate with them. The Dragon Lord finally makes the final decision: we are heading to the island, but warns a boat or another means of transportation will be needed for the trip. He had already taken care of the trip in advance, asking friends to find transport for them. Suddenly, a huge dragon appears before them, and Zik sincerely thanks them for the help. The team sets off. Shay happily waves goodbye to his father. Zek confirms his readiness, and the father smiles and asks them to take care of Shay and have a good time. The narrator concludes, it turns out Shay flew to Anagosima together with Zek and the rest the very same mysterious island. At Anagosima in the castle, she again asks anxiously, because this place is associated with some danger. The advisor says that the island is now a high-risk zone. A new species of magical beasts has appeared, and unstable conditions prevail there. The characters continue discussing the situation on the island, and the Dragon Lord Elrond, smiling confidently, says he has heard similar talks from acquaintances and has seen the island himself. He noticed no unrest. Queen Sophia asks him to specify the time, and he strains to recall the memory to name it precisely. Then the Dragon Lord remembers the last time he saw this island. He smiles broadly and says that a full 500 years have passed. He is a dragon, and time flows differently for him, and he says this as if nothing unusual. Elsewhere, Jamer in a cook's apron pushes a cart with food and wonders why he was assigned this job. He approaches the one to whom he is delivering dishes, teasing, "But you are a gourmet." And what he serves turns out to be quite strange. The cook enters the steam room to offer food to a shapeless mass of flesh. Seeing it from the side, he freezes in surprise and tries not to attract attention. The monster has already acquired a human body, hands and head. It looks somewhere and maliciously utters Zek's name. Suddenly, a huge king appears in fury. With a threatening face and bulging eyes, he shouts angrily, "Zek," waving his hands threateningly and holding a plate. A group of heroes rushes through the air. Zek happily says he already sees land ahead and is waiting for a quick landing. They see in the distance the silhouette of the mysterious island Anagosima, and one of the heroes asks if this is really the island they were heading to. Having just successfully arrived, the heroes sincerely thank the huge dragon for the transport, and he replies that delivering them there is no problem at all for him. The dragon felt tension in the air above the island, and with anxiety in his voice, warned the group, "Be careful, I feel a strange unrest throughout the area." Zik asked the dragon in surprise about the unrest he felt on the island. Mint immediately senses that the island is nothing like the resort described by the Dragon King. There is a strange feeling here, as if something is wrong. The girls also smell a strange scent, but suddenly Tai sees something in the distance and instantly draws the others' attention to it. A silhouette emerges from the forest thicket, an unknown creature. You call it joyfully, calling it a local from the island, and the others also believe that he is an islander. Suddenly, a frightening creature with horns and sharp teeth appears before them, and the whole company freezes in shock. The girls screamed in horror from the surprise. The monster lunged at them with a roar, scaring the whole group. Zik reacts lightning fast. He casts a paralysis spell and the attacker freezes midair. After Zik successfully neutralized the monster, he asked the girls if they were okay, and they sincerely thanked him for the help. Zik looks closely at the monster lying before him and notices something is wrong with its condition. When Zik approaches closer, he turns to the others and notices the creature's blood, carefully studying it. Olna says that she has never encountered such creatures in the army before. Mint from the group speculates, maybe this is an endemic of this island. Zik skillfully activates his ability and begins to study the sample of the creature's blood. Showing an enlarged image of the blood, Zik asks Mint, "What do you think about this?" Mint notices something with surprise. The girl explains that they are looking at an enlarged image of the creature's blood, confirming Zik's suspicion. Zik explains that the noticeable changes are symptoms of a disease. The swelling is clearly visible. Princess Tai asks if this monster is sick. Zik corrects her. This is not a monster, but a man suffering from a disease. Tiffany is surprised by Zik's words, and he, in turn, begins to cleanse the man of the disease. The man's face contorted in shock when he saw how the creature's grotesque shell suddenly began to distort. The monster's body slowly transformed, taking on a familiar human appearance, as if that grotesque shell was removed. The boy with short horns looks at his body in shock, not understanding what happened to him, and awkwardly voices his thoughts aloud. The main character calmly smiles and says that now everything is fine, while the girls watch what is happening with surprise and relief. The boy calls himself Shizuo, a member of the Oni clan, who lives on the island of Anagosima, and politely apologizes for the inconvenience. Tiffany sincerely shines. She says she is extremely glad to see him recovered after a serious illness. Shizuo realized with shock that he had considered his condition caused not by illness, but by some terrible curse. He sincerely thanks for the rescue, and the main character explains that the cause was a virus, but he managed to cure it. Mint, with a heavy heart, asks the demon if there are still infected on the island, and the demon coldly replies that the infection has already spread to many inhabitants. The situation became so serious that the entire island was under threat of destruction. Shizuo begins to tell how once Anagosima was a peaceful island, and its inhabitants maintained neutrality and avoided participation in wars. He says that a calm, measured way of life prevailed on their island until a few months ago when something happened. The girl, with anxiety in her voice, asks what happened then because everything seems so peaceful and safe. Shizuo, with a serious face, says that on that day something terrible appeared on the island, true evil. The girls ask again, stunned, what did he mean by the word evil? They find it hard to believe what they heard. Shizuo explains, that was the monster that appeared then, just a lump of flesh controlled by some old man. Shizuo then describes how the creature began to emit a poisonous fog into the air, which filled the entire island. This poisonous haze quickly spread, poisoning everything around, and no one in the city could escape falling under its influence. People began to turn into terrible, pale, uncontrollable zombies. The memories of what happened shock the heroes, and what they hear seems simply incredible. Shizuo barely moves forward. Almost everyone who inhaled the miasma turned into beings like him. About 90 of the island's population were infected and ceased to be themselves, losing their minds. Zik suddenly realized it was these poisonous vapors they saw from above when flying over the island. Kai-chan, in horror, realizes that the island is covered with miasma, so they are now breathing poisoned air, and she panics because of the danger of infection. She sobs and begs Zik, if you decide to intervene, kill me beforehand so that I do not turn into a zombie like those demons. Shizuo confirms her worst fears. If they continue to inhale this miasma, their bodies will soon begin to decompose and turn into living corpses. Zik calmly explains that perhaps his divine power is now protecting them. It acts like a vaccine. Shizuo is shocked. He calls Zik's power a divine blessing and finally understands how immense the protection guarding them is. He desperately begs Zik to help. Dropping to his knees, Shizuo calls him a messenger from the heavens who can save the entire island. Zik responds with a barely noticeable smile that from the very beginning he wanted to help the inhabitants and save them from this disaster. The team supports Zik's decision and remarks with light irony, once again they won't get to rest as they had hoped. Together they decide to deal with the problem as quickly as possible so they can finally go on vacation as planned. The heroes are brought to the central town hall of the local city, where they are greeted by a woman named Sakura, the current owner of Anagosima. She welcomes the newcomers reservedly but with respect. Zik and his team sat before the lady from Anagosima Island, and Shizue told her that he was the man who helped him. Sakura, the ruler of the island, says that rumors about Zik have already spread throughout Anagosima. He is already called the Demon in White. Zik smiles, pleasantly surprised that he was given such a nickname. His comrades rejoice and say it sounds very cool. Shizue apologized to Zik for his rudeness because he considered him special, and Zik said it was okay in that state. He himself could do nothing. Zik clarifies that Shizuo told him about what is happening on the island and suggests that the castle is a safe zone for all residents. Sakura confirms the pearl from the island really protects against blows, but beyond the gates, it is already deadly. When Zik heard this, he realized the situation is even worse than he thought before this conversation. Outside, a bunch of infected turned into terrible zombies. Shizuo is glad he led them to a safe place. Elena believes that for Shai, these are terrible scenes for training. Sakura, hearing that Zik was able to heal someone, exclaims in surprise, could this really be true healing? Zik explains that he can cure the disease, but it is too early to go into details. Essentially, it is an epidemic. Demons almost froze in amazement upon hearing about the possibility of reversing the course of the disease. Distrust and surprise were read on their faces to them. It sounded incredible. They did not expect to hear such encouraging words in this hopeless situation.
He decided to destroy all the people in the village.
Essentially, it is an epidemic. Demons almost froze in amazement upon hearing about the possibility of reversing the course of the disease. Distrust and surprise. The demon previously saved by Zik himself confirms us. He was a zombie, but he was cured and is normal again. He assures everyone that he can vouch for Zik's words, which adds confidence to those present in the room. Sakura, having felt the demon's confession, was shocked and at first could not believe it, but gradually realized that everything he said was true, and this revelation turned her understanding of the illness and treatment possibilities upside down. Two senior demons admit that the mistress acted correctly by not allowing the infected to be destroyed. They believe that the long siege of the castle was indeed worth it, and now there is a chance to save everyone. Zik, slightly frowning, clarifies what exactly the advisors mean when they say the siege is justified. He wants to understand their logic, because until now he did not know all the details of what happened on the island and the decisions made here. The elders said that they had not fought the zombies for 3 months. By the mistress's order, despite the threat, they refrained from killing Sand. This proves that at first the mistress believed in the chance of a different ending. The girl, not hiding her surprise, asks if they had really been under siege all this time, defending the castle, and wonders how they managed to survive in such a difficult, prolonged situation when dangerous infected lurk outside. She explains that they did not have accurate information about the condition of the zombies. Many of them were either already dead or had completely lost their will and turned into soulless puppets of the deceased, so all they could do was defend themselves and wait. One of the demons addressed the lady and suggested voicing the request. Perhaps only those who arrived are capable of providing them with such necessary help, because they are the ones who know how to cure the disease that struck the island's inhabitants. The girls whisper with admiration how kind she is. They are amazed by her tenderness and generosity. Such qualities are rarely seen among rulers. Sakura sadly admits that she was naive. The decision to postpone matters was reckless and only worsened the situation. She tortures herself because she cannot distinguish what is worth keeping and what must be gotten rid of. For a politician, such ignorance is a big mistake. Zik, trying to cheer her up, says that it was her kindness that attracted people, and he sees nothing wrong with that, while the elder demons, hearing his words, rejoice that he correctly understood why they are devoted to their master. Zik gains courage and proclaims that now that he is here, everyone can breathe out. He will definitely heal everyone. At night, Zik climbs to the castle roof to assess the situation and gazes at the landscape, covered with poisonous mist. He activates his ability to analyze and scans the entire vicinity. A picture of infection unfolds before him. Having discovered almost 3,000 infected, he finally understood the scale of the disaster. It is almost the entire population of the island. Others watch from below. His younger sister says that Zik is checking how far the disease has spread to decide how to treat it. Lady and Shizuo are frozen in amazement at Zik's abilities. They cannot believe that he can immediately cover the whole island. It is simply incredible. Zik's sister proudly says, "Of course he is like that, he is my brother." Her words and voice reveal sincere pride in his talents. Zik utters the spell Purification, and a wave that washes the disease from the infected spreads and covers the entire territory. The infected zombies slowly begin to come to their senses. Their bodies gradually return to normal appearance, and their faces show surprise and relief. Some of those who were healed cannot comprehend what is happening. They are shocked by the return of their human appearance and almost do not believe in their healing. Everyone who stood and watched as Zik healed was amazed. Everyone is back to normal. Zik himself admits somewhat strangely that it took a lot of his strength, but he is glad that everyone has recovered. The lady and her companions thank Zik for his help. Impressed by the result, he easily jumps down, responding to their gratitude. Modestly smiling, Zik waved off the praise. "Nothing special," he says. "I just did what I could." Zik eagerly asks for permission to look at the crystal they talked about earlier. The woman immediately agrees and does not object. He approaches the crystal and touches it with his palm, full of curiosity to explore its properties and learn more about it. Thanks to magic, Zig fills the artifact with power. It becomes more powerful and ready for further protection. Zig explained that this enhanced artifact will now be able to protect not only the castle, but the entire island from new threats, and Sakura and her entourage were impressed by what Zik is capable of. Everyone around is stunned by what is happening and says they now feel completely safe. Sakura thanks Zik for the invaluable help and sincerely admits she does not know how to repay the rescue. She reminds him that Zig came on vacation and as a sign of gratitude offers to arrange a sincere, hospitable reception for him. She shyly but sincerely offers to organize a celebration. If he does not mind such a proposal, Zik becomes a little embarrassed by this ambiguity. Suddenly, Kaitayan and T sharply interrupted the conversation, did not allow them to approach, and demanded to keep a distance. Kaitayan also added that Sakura should not worry about this, and Sakura herself was terribly embarrassed and did not expect such a reaction from the girls to her words. Meanwhile, Olna smiles and says that now she understands what the other girls felt when they saw their new rival. Minz agrees, and Shay looks at the girls with bewilderment. She runs up to his mistress and advises her to be careful so that she better tempts the young man with her behavior, and the mistress shyly replies that she just wanted to show them the island. Zig laughs and says that now everything is calm. He literally glows with happiness and sincerely rejoices that he was able to cure the island's inhabitants. He only has to find out the source of the infection. Suddenly, one of the elder demons shouted and asked the lady to look outside. Something happened there that greatly alarmed him. Everyone became alert. The heroes stepped out onto the balcony and looked at the sky. What they saw was both breathtaking and terrifying at the same time. They watched as a strange creature approached them from afar. Everyone froze, staring at the approaching demon and not understanding what was happening, and when the demon appeared again, it shocked and frightened everyone. The hero quickly reports, the island is cleared, the artifact restrains the energy, but not everything is so simple. The threat has not completely disappeared. Does he feel disgust upon seeing this demon? Some begin to notice the strange behavior of the creature. It behaves differently than last time, and this causes concern among those present. The demon growls hoarsely and makes strange sounds. Its body contorts as if it is trying to transform into something new and even more dangerous. Suddenly, a hand begins to burst out of the demon. It suddenly explodes with a powerful jerk, tearing through space. It begins to grow human limbs, and its body gradually transforms. A mighty man in a robe and crown appears before everyone. Everyone freezes in amazement. This is a new, even more dangerous enemy. It soon becomes clear that this is not just a demon, but Rugel himself. He addresses Ziga and says how much he missed him. Rugel whispered his name in astonishment, not believing his own eyes, while the other heroes stood in complete shock.
She anxiously asked if her brother was feeling well.
Amazement. This is a new, even more dangerous enemy. It soon becomes clear that this is not just a demon, but Rugel himself. He addresses Ziga. Zig was sure. The crown and beard prove that this is Rugel. Rugel joyfully greets Zig, saying he did not expect to see him in such a place, but his voice sounds strange, and his eyes are full of sinister energy, causing anxiety among those present. The crowd is confused. What happened to Rugel? Mint suggests that perhaps some evil magic absorbed his essence and turned him into a demon. Someone sarcastically praised Mint for the guess, saying that for a human she's quite clever. Disdain dripped from the words, tension hung in the air, and Irina immediately recognized that voice. Suddenly, next to Rugel appears another figure, Jammer daughter, who dramatically materializes, radiating a powerful aura that makes everyone wary and prepare for the worst. Jammer mocks Irina, reminding her how she unhesitatingly sided with humans as soon as her father lost the power of the Lord Demon. His words are filled with contempt. Zig tries to restrain Irina, asking her not to fall for provocations. It is important to stay calm now, and Irina barely holds back her emotions but steps back. Jammer continues to sprinkle sarcasm. He himself is sure he has the right to say you again because, in his opinion, it was Zig who appeared at the wrong time, and everyone looks at him with surprise and tension. Jammer finally explains, Rugel is a vessel for summoning a demon. His body has been taken over and is now used in dark rituals, and he smiles, enjoying the confusion around. He admits that he himself summoned the demon with forbidden magic. Now he has tamed it, and can use the power of the great demon Payman whenever he wants. Rugel suddenly strikes Jammer, proving his determination. The demon cannot dodge the powerful blow. The enraged Rugel sharply interrupts Jammer's chatter, showing that he is not swayed by his words and provocations. Someone from the group of main heroes mocks Jammer. He is upset and offended, loses patience, and sharply tells the one laughing, shut up. Rugel shouts that he only needs Zik, and the rest of Jammer's words do not interest him at all. Jammer cannot believe it. Rugel, although merged with the demon, has retained incredible willpower and still resists. Zik and his sister come to a terrible conclusion. Rugel has become a victim of a parasitic demon that has taken over his body. With a determined look, Zik said that he has a personal score to settle with this demon. But despite everything, he reminds himself, Rugel is still his patient, so he must help. The demon recognized Zik's voice and shouted his name, and the surprise instantly turned into tension. Zik calmly but firmly points to himself, ready to intervene and escalate the conflict. He looks at the opponent with a predatory smile grinning, and his eyes blaze with readiness for battle. Rugel mockingly asked if he really intended to be alone with him, and Zik calmly replied that it was not quite so. On the slope, comrades are worried the enemy is a demon, but Zik assures that he will handle it alone and asks them not to worry. Rugel confesses, as soon as he looks at Zik, old memories surface, their paths have intertwined too much. He recalls that he used to feel only anger towards him. Rugel wonders, what does Zik have that he does not? Why have people turned away from him and followed Vet? Zik is silent, does not answer this extremely difficult question, and his face remains stone cold. But Rugel finds his answer power. A new powerful energy begins to awaken in his body. He understands wealth and power are nothing without strength. Only strength gives true might and the respect of others. The main character remembers how Rugel ruled, how he treated his subjects with contempt. The people's hatred for their former king was completely justified. Filled with demonic power, Rugel wildly rushes at Siege, shouting about his right to lead the people and embrace the power of darkness for his own might, while Sieg calmly notes that he cannot be negotiated with and continues making notes as if he does not notice the enraged enemy charging at him. The king delivers a powerful blow. A stream of energy bursts around him, but suddenly his fist is stopped by an invisible barrier before it reaches the target. Rugel is shocked, eyes wide open. He does not believe either what is happening or that breaking through the defense is impossible. Zig calmly remarks that the demonic influence has reached Rugel's brain. His speech is confused, memory clouded, and he notes this in his notebook. Rugel is stunned. He cannot believe that his devastating blow was withstood by this man, who at first glance seemed completely unremarkable. Zig asks Rugel to state his name, and he laughs, saying there is no need, his name is already known to everyone. Rugel proudly calls himself Rugel, the third king of the kingdom of Gaetania, displaying a grotesque demonic hand with an eye. Zig, recording what he hears, says the patient's consciousness is fine. He enjoys diagnosing the old-fashioned way, like in the good old days. Rugel fiercely recalls how everything used to be fine until supposedly Sieg destroyed everything, and again he rushes into attack, consumed by rage. A loud explosion. Rugel again attacks the main hero with a hail of powerful blows, while Zik stands firm, calmly deflecting all attacks. Those watching from afar begin to speculate. One of them suggests that his brother is just conducting a test and trying to stay calm. Rugel looks at Sieg in amazement, not believing the power he sees, and even more impressed by how calmly he stands before the demonic force, without any fear. Realizing there is no other way to achieve the result, Rugel decides to act and attacks again, intensifying his pressure. With a loud scream and full determination, Rugel rushes forward, showing his growing fury and desire to win at any cost. He is engulfed by demonic power, and he begins to scream. He unleashes all his demonic might, spreads huge wings, and opens countless eyes. This is his true royal power. Zig calmly looked at him and realized, before him was not just an infected, this was a true parasitic demon that had completely subjugated its host. Preparing to respond, Zig struck with his palm. With one precise movement, he aimed to deflect the enemy's attack, and this blow severed one of the demon's wings. Rugel was completely confused. The king looked at his opponent with surprise. He did not understand how he could stand before such demonic power and show not the slightest fear or anxiety. The doctor said oops easily and casually, as if summarizing his actions. He continued to attack the demon, and the last energy around him faded. Rugel was in shock. He was defenseless, standing amid the fading remnants of his former strength, and instantly he was overwhelmed by realization. Finally, Rugel found himself powerless, hovering in the air in complete shock. The man assured that everything would be fine with them, but added that the boy should take care of himself.
The head was bursting with terrible pain, becoming almost unbearable.
The hero suggested moving forward. He asked the girl if she had said something. The main hero said that he heard some other voice, but quickly forgot about it, and they set off on the road. He said that the journey would take 5 days. It was an incredibly long trip. The girl suggested making the trip fun. The boy asked why the dragon was in a bad mood. Their eyes fixed on the wounded harpy. It was a fierce rank, a monster, and no one could understand how it ended up here. Lately, there have been more and more wounded monsters. The boy approached the harpy to examine her. He used a skill that induces sleep. The girl asked why he was healing her. He simply replied, "Because I am a doctor." And in general, monsters went mad only because of the demon's curse. It was not their fault. The girl said that this was the boy she had always known and admired. If so, the harpy would be in love. The boy asked her not to talk nonsense. He insisted that the monsters were cursed and not easy to tame, but he still cared for them in the kingdom. It was a long and exhausting journey lifting. The curse took a lot of time. The girl said that he easily dealt with a high-ranking monster. The boy said he didn't even remember having such power. Because of the contract he made, his power grew incredibly. The boy's abilities grew so much that he can understand the language of harpies. That was part of the agreement. The girl said that all this was only thanks to his talents. They both surrounded the boy and directly said that they liked him. The girl confessed that she was madly in love with him, but he didn't even notice. The boy assured that it was just a misunderstanding. He finally realized that she was a real monster. He had no idea that the day would come when he could talk to such a dragon. They are already here. That boy asked not to say nonsense. There are still a few days ahead. The girl said that they were clever and managed to be on time. The gates opened, and the creatures inside loudly greeted the divine being. Tiffany said that she had returned. People immediately began asking what was happening outside. At first the boy doubted, but now he was sure she was a princess. The girl said that she had harvested a great crop in the outside world. She brought a human doctor. He introduced himself and, smiling, said that he was glad to meet you. People began to whisper that he was the very benefactor the divine beast had spoken of. No one had seen him before. The boy asked if he had said something wrong. Tiffany replied that everything was fine. They were just a little embarrassed and not used to people. He had read that once people drove out the beast people, and they ended up in a dense forest, so their reaction did not surprise him. One of the knights pointed the girl the way. She apologized in advance for such a reaction, and the main character replied that it was a natural reaction to a stranger. A little girl approached them and said she had tasty apples, so she offered one. The princess asked if she could take some, and the boy said it looked delicious. She said they had a bunch of things, and the shop was over there, and that man shouted for me to run as fast as I could. The main character said he apologized by using the sleep skill. He asked Typhus if she was okay. The girl thanked him.
And to criticize what you do not understand is ignorance. Recalling that
She replied that she was fine. The knight asked why he had tried to crush the divine creature. He ordered to take the hero to the castle, and gloomily added, he and his horse must be ready to face the highest punishment. The main hero saw that the horse's hoof was stretched and inflamed. He asked if his hooves were regularly trimmed. Walking on cobblestones with such hooves was like walking barefoot on shards of glass. The boy used the creation skill. He assured that he had already helped a little. The horse would get home without problems, so just take good care of the horse. The man promised to be careful. The main hero said that it was not intentional anyway, so he asked to calm his anger and turn it into mercy. The girl said she was sure he would not allow such a thing to happen again. The girl awkwardly said that she should not have jumped out so suddenly and apologized. Everyone rushed to thank the main hero. The boy said he could not thank him enough for saving both the horse and himself. The knight said he was also shocked and grateful that the situation was resolved. The girl said she was very glad when she found out that they approved Zik. Tiffany hoped that they would get to know each other better and become friends. The girl said he was an important guest, so she insisted that he be treated politely. She said that she left one of the guest rooms empty so that he wouldn't be embarrassed. The maid said that if he needed anything, he could ask her. The boy eagerly started talking with the dragon about how Tiffany, having become a princess, became something truly fascinating. He said that the events took him by surprise. Suddenly, everything became very serious. If the princess approved of him, what would the rest of her family think? The hero said that he was terrible at everything except medicine. The dragon said that the main hero was experienced and caring. He would be gladly accepted everywhere. But she didn't like that dog, though she also saw what the dragon himself saw. The boy smiled and said that he was glad she thought so, and happy that he was able to talk with her. This was called interracial friendship. He said again that he was glad to have her. The hero heard cries for help. He used the detection skill. Through 2 rooms, 2 men crawled through the window carrying a large sack. The boy asked if they were kidnappers. Using the skill of stealth, they immediately asked him, "Who are you?" The hero proudly said that he found them thanks to his tracking ability. The bandits froze in surprise. His skill was incredible. The boy only said that it was just a medical skill. Suddenly they realized this is their bone with the monster. The main hero said that if they want to invite the girl on a date, they need to come up with something less extreme, otherwise she will just get scared. The bandit lunged at the hero, and he used the paralyzing skill. The boy said that there was no need to say anything to the bandit, and simply asked to release the girl. They would talk about the rest later. He anxiously asked if she was injured. The hero stood opposite the kidnapper and said that now he would look him in the face. He had high skill, but only a few people could use it. A petty thief would not use it. The boy asked the girl again if she was okay. She thanked him and called him by name. He asked how she knew his name. The girl said, "I am his employer." She, with a sparkle in her eyes, declared herself the divine queen of beasts and sincerely thanked him for saving her life. The girl smiled and told him that he was accepted. She introduced herself and said that she was the divine queen of beasts, Sophia. That guy responded, introduced himself, and sincerely apologized for his rudeness. Sophia said that he didn't need to speak so formally. The girl said that they were almost friends. The queen said that there was so much to talk about, but this time she would be brief. She wanted him to serve her country as the chief physician at the court. He was stunned by such a high position. The chief physician is the head of the medical department, but he had just arrived to them. The servant asked the master to wait. The queen was in an audience. A stranger entered and with a nervous bow apologized for interrupting the queen. He was the most outstanding among all the doctors, the true chief physician. He said that as the current chief doctor at the court, he cannot simply ignore what is happening, even if the princess believes that giving an important position to a foreigner who just arrived is outright madness. He was told that he behaved rudely. The queen said that there is sense in his words, so they will consider him for the position of his assistant. Zorua sharply turned to the queen and said that whoever she supports, he does not believe that such a person can hold such an important position. In fact, he might be a spy from another country. The man was talking about his physique and center of gravity. The boy asked to look at his right hand. The man could not understand why he had to clean it. The boy said that he was injured and wanted to see it. The man refused and said, "I am the chief doctor and will take care of myself." That man said that it was exactly the same cut he made with a scalpel on a bandit last night. The knights began to ask which bandits he was talking about. The queen said she kept silent about it to avoid causing confusion. She said that last night a bandit broke into her bedroom. She was in danger, but the main hero rushed to her aid and saved her.
Myra greeted Class 1C. Alicia was about to ask who this
The man said that a similar scar proves nothing. The man replied that that was exactly why he wanted to know. He used the skill of verification and asked that man to take some of his blood, because the blood on the scalpel could match his. The knights glanced in shock. He really wanted to check someone else's blood. The hero said that when it comes to villains, formalities are unnecessary. The girl sincerely said that she was proud of him. He came to the castle and immediately exposed the villains. He sincerely apologized to the queen. The main characters saw the court doctors of the entire country. There were many of them. They treated people and took care of the health of livestock. Guy approached the hero, said that the hero himself should lead them, and asked him to introduce himself. He introduced himself and said that now he was the new chief court doctor. The hero said that maybe someone did not like that he was an outsider, but he would do his best to become one of the team. If they had any problems, he asked to inform him, and then he would try to help. He thought that this pathetic greeting phrase should have been invented more cleverly, but there was no time for that yesterday. Everyone began to greet him joyfully. He was pleasantly surprised by their hospitality. It turned out that they had already heard about his exploits. The whole city talks about how he saved the princess and the divine queen of beasts. His predecessor was exactly the same. The heroes asked him not to worry about anything. They would do everything possible to support him. The boy began to speak, but he was interrupted by a man who had just entered through the door. A whole pack of demonic monsters was rushing at them. It was a huge crowd of dragons.
The girl, looking at her friend, does not understand.
Having learned that he had left, they rushed to look for him. The dragons said that he did not want to work without his brother. The boy was surprised to realize that they could also speak, and he felt his ability beginning to develop. On his native land, he cared for these dragons. He asked to take them under his wing. These are wonderful flying dragons for riding, and he is sure they will be useful for air travel. The beastmen exclaimed that it was wonderful, and they agreed. Meanwhile, in the former country of the main character, the king laughed out loud. He asked the minister about his new crown. The minister replied that with such a shine the king would be recognized in all corners of the earth. The king said that it was much more profitable than spending money on animals, and was sure that when people saw it, they would be delighted. It was already late, they had to go. The king asked if the flying dragon was ready. But despite everything, no dragon soared in the sky. Since early morning, the knights had been searching for them everywhere. The king said that without flying dragons, they would not be able to go to the meeting. He had no other choice, he had to take horses and a carriage. But there were no horses either. As soon as the main character left, the horses were abandoned, no one fed them or looked after them. In such a state, you cannot harness them to a cart or put them in a saddle. The minister shook his head. In that case, they had no choice but to simply get into the carriage. The king got angry, it humiliated him, that he had to behave like a servant, and the minister said he would think of something. The man said he did not care and that they needed to go. He apologized to the men for being late. The king said he had problems. He was told that they had already discussed most of the agenda items and promised that they would write about him at the end of the protocol. The dragon shone with joy because of the new house. The boy said that Sophia gave them an empty house. It seemed so big that they could easily fit inside it. That boy said that he had contacted Mint. The hero said that he wrote her a letter and sent it by owl. No matter how much she hated him, she was his sister, so she should at least know what was wrong with him. The boy decided to start with cleaning. The girl felt that she was in trouble. She turned to her brother and asked him to wait a little, she would come to him soon. The king got angry and said that he had been so humiliated and had lost face. He blamed the main character for everything. The minister asked him to calm down. The king also reproached the ministers for not offering anything worthwhile. He was told that the girl wanted to meet him, so said the minister. She was a genius hired for the position of court magician. She was only 15 years old, and she had already graduated from the Academy of Magic with honors, a talent that appears once in a century. It was incredible that such a famous personality had applied for the open competition. The king said it was because of his popularity. Now other countries would definitely pay attention to their country. The king said that the girl approached him almost before she officially received the position, and he liked it, and the girl replied that then he would have to do it himself. The prime minister asked what she meant. The girl sternly told him not to dare to touch, only her brother could touch her. She said that the boy who was expelled from the country was the one who took care of the animals. The girl just wanted to work in the same place as her brother. If he wasn't there, she had no reason to be there. The king said that for the prestige of his country, they needed help. The girl turned to her brother once more and whispered that they would see each other again soon. She noticed the barrier. The girl asked the knight to let her pass. She said that she really wanted to see her brother. The girl unleashed absolute zero magic, but the main hero stopped her. She quietly confessed that she missed him incredibly, and he, raising an eyebrow, asked what she was doing here, if she was still studying. The girl said that school was already behind her. She said she had just been released from the job of court sorceress. The main hero asked why she had done that. He went all out to get her a prestigious job. She said that she only needed him. The hero asked if the girl's character had changed. The dragon said that her character changed when she grew up. Before that, she only had childlike innocence. The hero said that he thought she hated him. The girl apologized for not telling him earlier. When he left the country, she realized, if she was not honest, she might not be understood for the rest of her life. The boy whispered that he loved her too. The girl blossomed with happiness. The dragon whispered that the boy was in love with her, and the sister exclaimed that even the main hero loved her. The boy sighed and said that he still had to go home, apologizing for bothering him. He asked the sister if she wanted to come to him. She replied that she would be a guest in that country. The hero said he was glad that Sophia agreed, and, addressing the girl, added that she did not need to live in his house. She replied that brother and sister live under one roof, and there was nothing strange about it, and he responded that now she was an independent person. Suddenly, the magical light went out, and the girl thought that the magic had ended. Those creatures before them were not monsters. The sisters explained that it was the technique of shadow puppets. Physical blows, sleep, and paralysis did not affect them. They asked him what he had done. His shadow puppet did not succumb to blows and magic. The main hero said that he simply sewed it with sewing thread. The stranger said that he could create an infinite number of shadow puppets, fill the room with them, and destroy them. That guy used paralysis. The man asked with surprise, how could the hero recognize him if his telepathic speech was so skillfully disguised? The hero said that if he hid in the puppet, he would have to hide his heartbeat as well. The guy was turning over in his head who this man was, and the girl said that he would confess soon. She put into action the skill of brainwashing. Now he was her obedient servant, ready to answer any question honestly, without any lies. The girl asked in a trembling voice why he attacked her brother. The man said that the king and the prime minister had given the order to kill the main hero.
The demon, using acceleration magic again,
Exile is one thing, but murder is quite another. He did not understand what he had done wrong. The king asked if it would be possible to bring the girl back, and the prime minister replied gloomily that it was unlikely considering how they treated the main hero. The minister said that he did not take the main character into account, but still would have to make certain concessions to bring back the mage. All they need is to show that they are truly ready to accept them back. The king suggested, at the first opportunity, hire assassins and kill the boy. The minister said that the king thinks negatively, and the man stated that he had just sent an assassin and that it was not such a bad idea. The minister said that the assassin was already there when they drove the boy away. The girl said that she understood. The one they sent, despite all efforts, failed. The king began to say that it was a mistake. The man said that they were worried about her and the main character. The girl said that she knew they are incorrigible and someday they will pay for what they did to her brother. They begged her not to punish them, but she used the skill absolute 00. The girl said that for the sake of her brother she would not take their lives, but if they come for him again, it will be the end for them. The king sighed sadly and said that he was tired of everything. At the same moment, the boy smiled and admitted that he really loves to bathe. It was an open-air sauna that he made just as a hobby. Although his schedule is no longer as busy as before, he still gets tired. The sister said that the water is divine. The girl said that she would also go take a bath. The dragon and another girl approached the main character and caught him while bathing. The ice still hasn't melted. The knight said they brought all the mages, but with such powerful magic, it's not that simple. The minister said he doesn't need excuses, and in any case, everything must be ready by the end of the week. It was lucky that there were no casualties, but the surrounding buildings were heavily damaged, and he fears that the special budget will have to be cut. The king began cursing everyone. The minister said he has a budget for repairing the castle and its surroundings. The king said he must thoroughly teach the main character a lesson because he was already sick. He said that guarding the castle is the prime minister's business, and something must be done about it. The man asked not to speak to him until tomorrow and to prepare 10 days to finish off the main character. The knight said that it was too cold for the owl to fly, and communication with all other stations was lost. All salamander guards simultaneously fell asleep, and the gatekeeper monster threw tantrums because of the cold. The slope in front of the main gates is so slippery that climbing is very difficult. The water pipe burst. The boy sat down next to the girl and said that they need to see if the cold passes overnight. He added that he would return tomorrow. The main character quietly said that he was going to vaccinate the girl and asked to prepare everything. The girl thanked him. Finally, he finished work for today. He was told that he did well, and now they would have a date. The dragon said that the girl had become too attached to him and coldly suggested to get rid of her. The boy was enjoying himself in his usual rhythm this time. Compared to the last, it was calmer. The girl asked, "Is he dead?" That boy introduced himself and said that he did not know any elves. The creature was surprised to hear its own voice. The boy replied that the voice sounded strange. The dragon, stunned, said that since birth he had never seen a person who could talk to him. The boy replied that they would talk about it later. He had received deep wounds. The monster asked if a human could heal the dragon, and the hero replied yes, because even a dragon in such a situation needs help. The monster confirmed this and said that it would take time to recover. When the boy said that he was a doctor and the dragon was wounded, he no longer needed any reasons to help the dragon. He decided to start treatment and said that there should be a stream nearby. A man appeared before him and said that the diamond dragon was prey. The hero asked Tiffany to gather as many leaves from the trees as possible, and the man asked her not to ignore him. The boy decisively said that if he was just relaxing here, he should leave and not disturb him from healing the dragon. The stranger said that this is not the right way to treat a dragon hunter. He said the hero deserved to die. The dragon shouted to the hero, "Run, the stranger's arrows pierced even my diamond scales." The man asked in surprise who the main hero was here, and the boy replied that he was a veterinarian and would heal the dragon. The stranger said that he was lying. The man said that he would see nothing through his arrows. The dragon, worried about the hero, shouted to him, "Run." The stranger said that he remembered the face and name of the main hero. He used teleportation magic, and it was not a simple spell at all. That boy said that when it comes to hooligans, Now he was about to start the treatment, and holding his breath, asked the dragon not to move. The girl asked how the treatment was going, and the boy replied that he was just looking at what could be done. He believed that as soon as the superficial wounds were treated, the dragon's healing abilities would handle the rest on their own. Even if he used his skills, the treatment would proceed extremely slowly. The bandit probably mixed some magic into his arrows. The dragon said gloomily that he knew many dragon hunters but had never seen anyone try to heal, and the hero asked him to be quiet and said to leave this matter to the doctors. Only now did he begin to comprehend what had just happened to them. The hero said, "That's it." Having finished the series of attacks, he stood smiling and completely calm after the battle. On Rugel's head, the tiny demon Payman twitched amusingly, and the king, puzzled and not understanding what had happened, called him by name. Suddenly the doctor approached. Rugel shuddered. The king jumped up, not expecting such an appearance, and reacted sharply to his voice. The hero, without losing composure, spoke of the final touch, and with a light flick of his finger neutralized the parasite, destroying it once and for all. The disarmed demon flew upward. The king stood stunned, and finally realized the complete defeat of his demonic essence. The parasite slowly rose into the air. The observers silently watched until the creature completely disappeared from their sight. The small body of the demon falls down, swirling in the air, and again takes its true form. He falls to the ground with a soft, dull thud, finally losing strength. Rugel comes to his senses. The doctor joyfully greets him. "Oh, you woke up, old man," and confirms that he is himself again. King Rugel, having fallen to the ground, barely regains consciousness. Extreme confusion is read on his face. He cannot find words. Emotions gradually take over, and he bursts into loud crying. Not holding back feelings, the people nearby only notice his tears. Jammer freezes in shock, realizing that the incredible power of Payman, fueled by human greed for power, was neutralized with frightening ease. Zik shifts his gaze to Jammer to the new enemy, and the enemy finally understands. Now it is his turn. Jammer is gripped by panic and curses what is happening. He realizes that the situation is becoming dangerous for him. Unwilling to give up, he summons a mighty creature, a huge skeletal dragon, to destroy his opponent with one blow. Zik remains calm. He activates cleansing magic and directs it at the summoned monster, feeling neither fear nor doubt. Under the spell, the dragon radically transforms. From a terrible monster, it becomes a kind and cute creature. Jammer freezes. He cannot believe his eyes, watching how the dangerous creature turns into a harmless patient. Zik, an experienced doctor, rejoices at the successful treatment and wonders if there are others who urgently need help. Meanwhile, another participant on the scene joked, reminding Jammer that one dragon was clearly not enough against Zeke. The hero looks decisively at the enemy, taking Jammer under his control, as if hinting that he will make the next move personally. Jammer breaks away from the battlefield with a single burst of teleportation magic. He disappears. Finally, the whole team returns to the main hero, and they jokingly agree that a barrier against teleportation would not have hurt. One of the girls says that Jammer is an extraordinarily strong opponent, whom even she and her father once lost to. Another boy, Zeke, often judges everything by himself, not thinking about how much harder it is for others, and Mint says that this is exactly the beauty of her brother. She tells, amusingly and a little shyly, how it took her 3 years to create this magical pattern, and he immediately found how to improve it. Zeke laughed and suggested dropping the subject. He did not want to continue the conversation about his achievements. At that moment, a little girl gently comforts the crying Rugel, who is sitting, hugging his knees in despair. Zeke looks thoughtfully at what is happening, not knowing what to do now with the defeated enemy. Rugel, lying on the ground, bitterly repents what happened and admits his guilt before Zeke. The heroes look at the king. After the cleansing, he seems renewed and calm, as if freed from a heavy burden. The king admits that he once considered Zeke a worthless loafer who wasted his strength caring for animals. Now seeing the true power of the hero, he regrets his previous judgments and is impressed by Zeke's hidden abilities. Zeke shyly replies that this is not entirely true, trying modestly to deflect the praise. Min distracts his brother from talking to the fallen king. There is some mental connection between them, and they understand each other without words. The king continues to apologize, saying that Zeke could have used his power for a great future, but chose the family business. He admits his mistakes and says that as a former king, he is ready to take responsibility for the past. Zeke gently replies that all that is behind now, showing forgiveness and kindness to the one who repented. The king, moved by forgiveness, cannot hold back tears. He feels incredible relief. He exclaims that now, finally, everything ended well, hugging Zeke in a burst of gratitude. Tiffany is glad that everything ended happily. One of the companions thoughtfully wonders how the demon's cleansing could have touched the king's heart and made him different. Zeke notes that even if it were possible, he would never use power to forcibly change someone's consciousness. She apologizes even for thinking such atrocity. He reassures Kikian, saying he knows she has a good heart, and she apologizes to him. The heroes laugh with relief and say that if a truly strong enemy appears, they will have to act decisively and deal with him. Sakura approaches them, turns to Zeke, and addresses him. She sincerely thanked them for saving their island from the looming disaster and threats, and Zeke smiles and says that maybe it was an accident, but admits, without their intervention it could have ended in tragedy. Speaking aloud, he admits that it was not a coincidence, but some higher plan or fate. Those around pick up this idea. They say that their meeting was destined by fate, and Sakura blushes a little. She declares that the meeting of Zik and Sakura is fateful, and this makes Sakura blush even more. Kai-chan pressed Shia to keep her from saying too much, and jealousy broke out on her face. Mint intervened, and said with relief that it was finally over. She has already changed into beachwear, and sincerely hopes that her brother will finally be able to take a vacation and truly rest. She adds hopefully, maybe we will be lucky to stay alone, and this greatly surprises everyone around. Meanwhile, everyone noticed Zik disappeared. He sees how Sakura offers to take him to a sacred place. She takes his hand and says that, being from the royal family, she can show him many more important places. The sister anxiously notices that she has a dangerous rival, while the other girls run ahead, arguing about justice. On the beach, the characters are having a fun time. One of the girls energetically shouts about her arrival at the sea, rejoicing in the holiday. The atmosphere is carefree and festive. They talk about vacation, and the girl in the swimsuit smiles and says that now it is time to relax and enjoy. Others are surprised by her frivolous beach outfit. Kai smiles, noticing that only Mint is preparing for the vacation like that. At that moment, T, Irina, and Zhe run up in swimsuits, and the heroines admire the sea and enjoy nature with enthusiasm. The girl with ears explained that she changed both her clothes and appearance using magic, and the rest silently admired how convenient it is to be a witch. Another heroine says that she can also change the shape of clothes by playing with threads, while Kai is a little upset and decides to just play with shells. Suddenly, the threads seemed to come alive and began to wrap around Kai-chan. She trembled with fear, not understanding what was happening to her clothes. The dress changed beyond recognition, and now both girls looked the same. Although a bit awkwardly, the heroine sincerely thanked her friend for the help and was pleased with the result. Meanwhile, Sakura in Zik's embrace admired the spiritual path and the powerful magical energy of this place, but at the same time was wildly outraged. A small quarrel flared up between the heroes due to jealousy. One heroine reproached the other for constantly trying to take everything for herself. The boy calmly replied that everything happened accidentally because of the slippery floor. She, irritated, said that he did not understand women at all. Suddenly, Sia felt a strange energy and froze in the middle of the road. Everyone turned their attention to her and waited for explanations about what was happening. Irina cautiously asked what had happened and what she had felt. The heroes approached a tall mountain, on the summit of which a temple was visible. Sakura explained that this was a sacred place dedicated to the divine patron of the royal family. The trial that awaited ahead was called the Peach Trial. They found themselves before huge gates from which a powerful magical aura surged. Iron inquired whether ordinary people could enter. Zik explained that entry was allowed with accompaniment, but there were certain restrictions. Sakura decisively said that only Sia could pass, and no one had the right to interfere. Even Zik and the rest of the friends could only observe, and the participants had to remain silent and calm. Before entering the sanctuary, Zik encouraged Sia, assuring her that she would manage. Others also supported her with warm words and gestures, and Sia gathered strength, tying determination into a knot. The group approached the very cave, in front of which stood a huge sacred altar. Sakura strictly asked everyone to be silent so as not to disturb the ritual, and tense anticipation filled the air before the ceremony began. Sakura began the ritual, clasping her hands in a prayer pose. Around her swirled a mighty sparkling vortex of magical energy that shone with flashes of light, and her call sounded she was calling Princess Peach to come to them. In a whirl of energy above the clouds appeared a majestic figure. Princess Peach appeared before everyone, sitting on a throne amid swirling mist. Shia and Irene froze in awe, watching this impressive spectacle. Princess Peach glanced at the gathered group and noticed that the ceremony was still far off. She turned to Sakura, wanting to know why they had come right now, and her gaze was calm and confident, awaiting an explanation. Sakura quietly and politely explained that they had come to ask for the princess's blessing. Behind her, the other participants of the ceremony lined up, silently watching, and everyone respectfully held their breath awaiting her response. The princess interrupted the conversation and decided to figure it out herself. She radiated confidence. Everyone fell silent and looked at her in anticipation of the decision, while Zik and the others watched the events with interest. Princess Peach looks over the gathered company and notes that this time there is not a single rude person among the guests, unlike previous occasions. Princess Peach aimed at Princess Dragon. She confirms Princess Peach's suspicion, explaining that her evolution is only possible thanks to the special magic of this island, recommended by King Elrond himself. Princess Peach said aloud, although she was underestimated, it would be an honor and interesting for her to do a favor for the dragon race. Noticing the remark about her frightening nature, the deity smiled, agreed, and ordered her to prepare for the trial she is very afraid of. The princess recalls the treats that always accompany such rituals and involuntarily asks herself if everything is ready. She takes out the prepared rice balls, Princess Momo's favorite treat, and Momo blossoms with joy. Momo jokingly complains that she is so easily bribed with treats, and her friends laugh and say that it is always like that with her. She admits that earlier she just gave silly tasks, but with the little dragon, one had to be very careful. The princess smiles brightly, catches the reactions around her, and with a sparkle in her eyes says that she has an idea. Meanwhile, Sia and her friends begin to argue, insisting that Sia is already grown up, not a child, and that they are ready for the upcoming trial. The princess lightly tosses an unusual vessel into the air, as if proving that everything is ready, looks excitedly at Sia and her friends, waiting to see what will happen next, and exclaims cheerfully. With a glass in her hand, the princess smiles widely and calls everyone to drink together, her mood playful and friendly, but behind this lightness, there is a hint of the trial she has planned for Sia. Sil looks at the princess in surprise and responds to the unexpected offer to drink with a question. In her eyes is uncertainty and an attempt to understand what trial awaits her next. The princess explains the rules. If she is the first to faint from the drink, she wins and will gain magical powers, and if the princess wins, what will happen they have not said yet. One of the companion's items, which the children like Sia must never drink it. Another interrupts her irritably, asks her to be quiet, and the princess, showing no emotion, continues to observe. The princess calls the drink peach nectar of the immortals, and with a glow says that it is one of her most precious treasures, but quickly reassures everyone there is almost no alcohol in it, so she invites them to taste it. Kai took a few sips, and suddenly there was a small explosion, from which everyone around froze in shock. Sia Chen loudly exclaims that the drink tastes like poison or even gasoline, stunned by its sharpness, while the princess laughs out loud, enjoys their reactions, and clearly finds everything incredibly funny. Others argue about how to explain that strange taste. Some barely notice it, others say it is sharp, and someone suggests that it all depends on how much magic is in each person's body present. Princess Momo calmly said that it is true Sia has too weak a magical vessel, which instantly overflowed. Sia indignantly snapped at the words pathetic vessel, wondering whom exactly Momo called pathetic, and Momo, smiling slyly, innocently asked, "Was I lying?" Jo, without giving up, energetically sweeps away her portion and asks for more. Everyone is impressed by her endurance, and Momo admires the strength of her appetite. After the refill, Jo strangely tensed and trembled, but assured everyone that nothing terrible happened, and at the same time felt the mother's milk became even stronger. Momo laughed loudly, not believing that her drink could be compared to dragon's milk, and was proud that her treasure had become even more valuable. Someone asks, is this drink alcoholic or not? Momo, giggling, says that the meaning has slightly changed and suggests everyone drink. The group enjoys the evening by the campfire. Momo suggests staying on the island a little longer, and this makes the atmosphere even friendlier and homelier. Some say that a good balance and a pleasant evening have come out, but C is not delighted. Sakura apologizes for what happened. The main character is shocked. Everyone has a completely different reaction to this drink. He cannot believe that it can be drunk at all. Zik notes that for him it just tastes like water, but his younger sister assures that this is not so. He just has a very capacious vessel, and she smiles kindly, adding that he is her brother. Princess Momo lifts him up. If he has such a vessel, then he has special abilities. Princess Momo seriously reports Zik is special. The power of the gods lives in him, which distinguishes him from ordinary people. Zik, froze in shock and not understanding how Momo found out about this, asks, and the others also look at her with open surprise. The princess says that she easily recognized his special trait. Such a powerful divine aura came from him that it was hard not to notice it even from afar. The heroes are confused and try to understand what kind of scent is being talked about here. One of the girls jokingly says that Zik smells good and hugs him from behind, and another immediately reacts angrily and demands that she not touch him without permission and not take advantage of the situation. The princess explained, a strong aura is not only in Zik, but also in the beast princess. She doubts whether they are even from this world, and this causes even greater surprise. The beast princess loudly declares in response to doubts that she is fine, that she has legs, and that she is alive, while her friend notices that the conversation is about something completely different. Momo begins to explain, divine power is not like ordinary magic at all, it is another level, and she says, the matter here is much more complex and deeper. The princess said decisively, even when he drank the potion, the magic in him did not increase. That is proof. Divine power suppresses and dissolves ordinary magic. Momo admits that the whole party was rather a test. To gain power, one just had to drink the potion, but the procedure itself turned out to be incredibly fun. If everyone found out how to gain this power, a hunt for it would begin. Many would pursue it, so she concealed the true nature of the potion to avoid danger. Zik suddenly reflects and realizes. All this time, he was unharmed precisely because of his divine nature, and now it became clear to him why he is invulnerable. Momo continues, it's not about the power itself. Imagine if characters from a book started behaving on their own, what would it matter to them? She again emphasizes, the problem is much deeper. Momo warns Zik, such enormous power can destroy a person. She does not know where he got it from, but asks him to be careful, the price may turn out to be too high. She joyfully reminds Momo that their competition is still not over. Momo suddenly remembers this, and Jack freezes in silent contemplation, pondering what he just heard. Zik understood, although he himself knew about the danger of power. Hearing it aloud was much more painful. He asked Stefania if she knew anything about destruction, but she replied no. Zik jokes that everything would be much simpler if power were used only for good, but deep down he knows that not everything is black and white, while Mint sincerely believes in her brother's good intentions. The hero says he will figure it out when he gets home. Mint says she will also drop by the library to study, and meanwhile Kai-chan simply falls asleep here. Suddenly Kai-chan made a strange facial expression. This alarmed everyone around. Her condition caused panic and raised many questions among friends. Zik is stunned. Did she force herself to drink? She-chan, she's suffering, says she just wanted to have fun like everyone else, since such things happened at the fair. Zik, worried, supports Chuchin and suggests taking a walk in the fresh air, sincerely apologizing that no one took care of her condition during the fun. Kai-chan cannot hold back her emotions. She is trembling. Zik holds her by the shoulders and tries to calm her, but she is completely confused and almost crying. Soon Kai-chan can no longer endure. She feels nauseous and vomited. Everyone is shocked. Sia is worried, and another girl scolds Kai-chan for what she is doing with her brother. In the castle of the demon lord, Rouge Jammer stands and is very nervous about something. He stammers as he reports to his lord in the throne room about another failure of the operation. Rouge is disappointed. There is still no result. The demon justified himself, saying that Luz's power was not the problem was that Zik's power was too great even for such a supermagical being. His lord calmed him. Mistakes happen. This time he was forgiven. The main thing is to try next time. The relieved demon thanks him for the mercy and rejoices at the unexpected pardon. But the punishment will still be, even if only for show, so that the subordinates do not think the power is weak. The demon lord launches a magical attack using a glove puppet gesture. The demon realizes in horror that he will not be able to escape without consequences. A powerful magic impulse hits the demon in the chest. He screams in pain, realizing the full severity of the punishment. Rouge lifts Jammer into the air. The old demon whispers words with his last strength. His body begins to crumble under the pressure of mighty energy, and Rouge watches his torment with a cold heart, holding an open book and showing no pity. The demon is increasingly fading, his face distorted with suffering, and he tries to say something, begging for mercy. Ruz released the old demon. He fell to the ground and no longer moved. Noticing this, she pronounced his name with slight surprise, watching his final agony. Jammer's body lay with a barely noticeable astonishment, as if even it could not believe what had happened. Could he really die from such a light blow? He did not expect this. Ruz gives an order, slightly trembling from the silence. His voice is casual, asking to carry out the body, but no one responds to his commands. Silently observing the events, Ruz catches a bitter truth in his mind. It turns out Jammer is the last of his servants. All the others who were with him have already died earlier. With a light sigh, Rouge touches the cover of the book. His long claws gently glide over it, as if emphasizing the seriousness of his next step. The dragon said he tried to heal him with human powers, but it was not enough, and suggested that he resort to another. He said he was always honest with his patients, and apologized that was all he could do. The dragon said he needed sacred energy, and it should be enough to strengthen the magic. The main hero admitted he had heard about sacred energy for the first time. This magic is incredibly powerful. The dragon asked if he could use his healing magic. The boy replied that it was easier said than done. The dragon asked if he had already mastered such magic, and the hero replied that his skill was to help patients heal on their own. Healing magic is a completely different thing. It can put providence into sleep and return them to normal life, and he did not even understand what his sister was telling him. The dragon said he could heal because powerful energy was boiling inside him. It was not an accident, but his path, the accumulation of many healings. The hero, surprised, asked how he could know so much. The dragon smiled and replied that it was thanks to his spirit and hands. The boy said that in that case, he needed to check all his savings. The dragon said in surprise that although they were absolutely perfect, they healed too early. The unique ability of Dragon Healer, Hand of God, grows into a healer of hundreds of beasts. The boy said that the girl sometimes behaves in a way that scares. He said with relief that he was glad the dragon was okay. The monster thanked him for saving him and giving him strength. The hero only said that he just did what he had to. The boy said that he did not know what happened next, he only remembered how the elf ran away, and he was healing the diamond dragon. The girl said that the country was dangerous, not only for Tiffany, so they would have to wrap it in ice. The boy said that she misunderstood everything, and he did not even remember that girl with horns. The dragon turned into a human, his evolutionary power made it possible. The boy said that the girl talked about something like that.
Frenda raised her hand up and said she was ready to effortlessly close any gap. Water pillars burst upward. Frenda looked toward.
As far as he knew, his dragon did not eat monsters. The girl said that monsters like them feed on energy through food. More precisely, they absorb the magical power of the victim, and when a large magical energy bursts into the body, natural evolution can begin. So the boy's magical power triggers evolution. The hero asked why he had such magical power. The girl replied that it was because of a contract with Tiffany. Having made a pact with the divine beast, he was filled with divine energy, and yesterday's encounter with the dragon only made it stronger. The clan could use the power of the monsters dependent on it as their own. With divine and dragon power, the boy underwent a true transformation of his being. It was only natural that they also changed under this influence. Simply put, he became the strongest among users of healing magic and was endowed with the power of the god himself. Healing magic is a true miracle that heals everything around: people, animals, and even magical monsters. He is confident that this is the inevitable consequence of his encounters with everyone. Then he will use it as he pleases. The girl said that although she had acquired a human form, her brain was still lizard-like, and her body suited her better. The girls began to argue among themselves. The boy asked them to calm down. The queen said that watching this was fun. The main hero said that Typhus did not behave strangely. The girl said that they are divine beasts and have a spiritual connection with the sky, and hers is especially strong, so gods will had to pass through her. It turned out that everything Tiffany said was not a metaphor at all. He did not fully understand everything after such a pile of information, but inside burned the desire to live as before. The girl flew into his room and, smiling, exclaimed, "Good morning." She was happy that he woke up. He wanted to immediately gather the troops and attack that land.
In the room at the table sits a small demon girl, and Janet says that they decided.
The one who was previously defeated could not come to terms with the insult and decided to completely destroy them. Elkis shouted to the others to come out, then added that he would destroy their country, calling them bad people. One of the locals ironically asked the elf what they were doing here. Did they really come at this time to look at the village sites? The chief elf laughed. At that moment, Elkis drew his sword and cut off the interlocutor's head. He laughed loudly and said that they were a bunch of losers. It seemed that in half a day he would destroy their entire country, and at the same time laughed loudly again. But the voice of the beastman sounded behind him, asking what he had just done. The elf instantly turned around and said he did not understand why his neck was intact, and the boy asked him about it again. At that moment, one of the elves jumped on the boy and shouted with contempt that he was a pathetic bug and he would do it again. The beastman immediately covered himself, but there was no blow because someone else suddenly attacked the elf. The attacking elf was cut to pieces, and Elkis froze in horror. He did not expect this at all. At that moment, one of his subordinates shouted his name and reported that the village was enveloped in light and it was impossible to go further. Elkis realized that this was magical power, after which he loudly pronounced the name of the main hero. Elkis said that they had fortified the village in anticipation of his arrival, and then asked doubtfully if it was really wise. The beastman instantly inquired what he meant. The boy said that yesterday Master Zik was here for a scheduled inspection. He recalled the queen's words: "Whoever the main hero heals, that person will be blessed by the light for some time." The elves began to insist that such a shield could not be broken and that they needed to retreat, but Elkis interrupted them. A hero hunter of dragons does not give up so easily, and he summoned the demon Baphomet. The man said that now they would break through. He would release a demonic beast of SS rank, which would smash the devil's barrier and everything in its path. But at that moment, something distracted him, and his eyes widened in shock. Elkis became very angry and immediately rushed forward. His people began calling his name, but he did not respond. One man said that the villain turned out to be much stronger than he thought. He said he had to return and come up with a plan, but at that moment he began coughing. Elkis asked in surprise what that was, and suddenly a monster appeared before him, greeting him and calling him long-eared. Elkis smiled crookedly and said that it was a lizard he had not finished off that time, then asked if he was really looking for a fight, to which the monster replied that, seeing Zik's power, he correctly understood his intentions. The man said that it seemed his interlocutor had received a favor from that bad person, after which he suggested arranging a rematch. The other agreed and said something along those lines. Elka waved his hand and grimly promised to crush him like a pancake. then summoned his magical bow, but at that very moment his hands were cut off. The man turned around and roared when he saw his hands lying on the ground. The monster said that he would no longer be able to hold the bow and asked how he would now break through his scales. Elkis laughed and said that he could use healing magic. These wounds were nothing. At the same time, he stood and cried. The man was on the edge. He clenched from tension, called magic to return his hands, but nothing worked. He only prayed that he needed to make a little more effort. When he realized that nothing was working, he roared why the magic did not work, and the monster replied that healing miracles happen only thanks to divine power. He also said that Elkis attacked Zik, the messenger of God, so it was quite natural that he lost his blessing. Elkis, with tears in his eyes, began to shout that he did not understand anything, and then asked to speak to him directly, calling him a lizard. The man saw before him, besides this monster, 4 huge dragons, and at that moment the lizard said, in other words, he stepped on God's tail. Elkis immediately, with a patronizing smile, rushed to apologize, then began to explain that he did not try to kill Zik, and even started begging him. At that time, the main character was reading a newspaper that wrote that a group of elves suffered losses due to a mysterious phenomenon. He thought he would have to ask them to strengthen patrols. Tiffany said he needed to rest. Zik said that he was not working, he only reads reports. The girl replied that this was also work, took them away, and told him to rest. He did not argue but was offended. The main character was talking with a friend who complained that after the secretary's reproach for exercising, he had to lose a week's salary, and from the first day he was suffocated by deadly boredom. Shi-chan laughed to tears and said that she never thought she would hear such words from Zik's lips. It's good that he has someone who leads him. The main heroine said that she was right, and he thought that he would like to have such a wife. The girl immediately pulled out a book about how to manage a husband and began to read it carefully. Then Tiffany said that a cave was recently found at the border and suggested everyone go explore it. After some time, they found themselves in a dungeon, a general name for a large labyrinth. The underground is a source of a magical element in the atmosphere. It is also a source of magical power. When it hides deep underground, it gathers into a core and thus becomes underground. The dungeon resembles a living creature. It has no body, but it has a fierce thirst to devour people. It creates monsters, sets traps, and sprinkles evil magic. If they are not stopped, they will break out into the outside world. They do not even know why they exist, but today from all corners of the world, brave ones descend deep underground to destroy the threat that has arisen. At that moment, Elizabeth rushed at the monster. A few blows and it fell to the ground, bleeding. It was her last enemy. She turned to the team and asked them to briefly say how things were. They replied that everything was fine, except that the uncle was covering for his niece. The man proudly declared that he was a tank, that it was his job, and the girl sharply replied that he should not have shown himself like that. The boy turned to the leader and said that he was wrong in disarming the trap, and she replied that it was not only his fault, everything was fine. The girl said that a disgusting atmosphere blew throughout the dungeon, but that was only half the trouble compared to what could have been. The boy said that the cave was teeming with S-class monsters, suggested retreating, but was refused. Elizabeth warned that would be disobedience to the royal order. They would lose the prime minister's trust, and now it would turn into a real disaster for their party. Then she shouted that the roles were changing. She would take the hits, and the man would cover the rear, to which the little girl replied that they needed to be careful because she felt the magic awakening. Around them swarmed countless monsters. The blonde asked if this was really an increase in monster appearances. Another replied that they would have to start all over, and the leader ordered to act. At that very moment, in another part of the dungeon, the main character was with his team. Tiffany was very happy as they rolled down and said it was very funny. Zeke said the situation was terrible. He was even a bit nervous. She replied that it was so much fun there and so many attractions. It must be an amusement park. To this, Tuchon asked if they were sure the cave was safe. The girl said that here one could fall into lava, get hit, and everything would be fine, and Kai-chan doubtfully agreed with her. The main character said he was curious how it all worked. At the same time, Tiffany noticed there were monsters, they seemed almost real, and then Zeke asked if it was really silly to be afraid of such things. At that moment, the monster standing before them turned to them and ordered them to die, after which it attacked Tiffany with a huge hammer and literally pressed her into the ground with its weapon. Kai-chan immediately screamed, to which Zeke calmly replied that it was nothing, it was just an attraction. Meanwhile, Tiffany laughed and said he scared her, and everyone in the cave was shocked. Suddenly she looked at the bowl and said he was wounded. At that moment, the main character asked him about it. It was not some makeup or anything like that. Zeke approached him, touched the wound, and said he was a doctor and could fix such a thing in an instant, so he asked to take a look. After that, he used a healing skill, and the monster was shocked by what was happening. The main character said that after the examination, he cast a healing spell on the whole body so the monster would get rid of all other diseases. Tiffany said that was cool, and at that moment, the bull asked if his name was really Zeke. The monster fell to its knees before him, thanked him for waking him up, and asked for their help because many were trapped by the curse. Meanwhile, in another part of the dungeon, the uncle again shielded his niece from the monster's blow. Elizabeth immediately shouted at him and asked what he was doing, and the man at that moment fell to the ground, blood oozing from the wound. The uncle insisted that he was a tank and would not let her get hurt, while the other, gasping, said he was okay, but it was hard to breathe and there was a lot of blood. The leader said that on the other side, there is a sign that leads straight to the very heart of the dungeon. The little girl said that she thinks it is worth going exactly there. Elizabeth asked how much magic they had left for the attack. The blonde replied that the subordinate had only 20 magic, and the other said it would be 30 if they used the last items for recovery. The leader said that when she gives the signal, they must burn down everything they have on the front line, to which the dark-haired man replied that if they just open fire on them, they will immediately start dodging. Elizabeth said they just need to get rid of them. She will buy time. They will move in the opposite direction and scatter the enemies, and she will run as fast as she can to destroy the core together. The blonde asked if she really considered it real, and the leader replied that it was her fault she did not properly appreciate the complexity of the dungeon and must take responsibility. The dark one said she had not thought through the plan with the explosion. The boy said that if she could get through the dungeon with such a strategy, she would have no problems, then asked a few questions, and finding out that she didn't even know the basic characteristic, got angry and embarrassed the girl. Tiffany said he thinks they will manage anyway. The blonde assured that everyone will return alive, and the leader blushed and thanked them for it. At that moment, a loud explosion thundered in the room. The blonde said that the explosion had already been mentioned, and Elizabeth replied that it was not her. It turned out that the main hero with his team appeared before them. The leader immediately asked who they were, and Zik replied that he was just a doctor passing by, and everyone jumped in surprise. The main character whispered that it seemed they had suffered greatly, to which the monster calmly replied that everything was fine if curse worked, but karma did not, and Zik coldly remarked that the truth was already known. It was only a matter of time and strength. Then the hero closed his eyes and used the skill Return, which worked on both monsters and humans. The leader looked at her hand and saw that her wounds had disappeared. The uncle also looked healthy, all his wounds had vanished, and his niece instantly blossomed with joy. And everyone saw even the monsters turn back. The monsters addressed the main hero, thanked him, and said that he was worthy to be their ruler. The main hero, blushing and waving his hands in front of him, said that he was too embarrassed and asked them not to behave like that. The leader and her team froze in shock and asked if he was really the Lord of Demons. Later, Zik came to the mansion, greeted Elizabeth, and asked if they had settled all the formalities. The girl answered affirmatively and added that now they were residents of Nerigma. The main hero admitted that he was surprised to learn that they were from the same city, and the girl agreed she was also impressed. She said that he was a veterinarian and had heard a lot about him. Zik responded gladly and said that they were somewhat famous, to which Elizabeth said that rumors were going around that they had disappeared, and it was hard to even imagine how much the kingdom had lost because of his departure. The hero looked away. It was clear that he was uncomfortable. He even got a little nervous. He said aloud that it was a long time ago, and she asked about the king and the prime minister. Is it true? The girl replied that they were a squad directly under the command of the prime minister, so they received a direct order from the king to go into this dungeon. They had been through a lot, but now they had had enough. Elizabeth said that they were the main S-class party of the Twilight Dragon country, but in reality, it turned out that this was the personal army of the prime minister, and this time they had stormed into such a hellish dungeon without any time to prepare. The main hero said that from their side the dungeon was a real hell, and he thought to himself that it was a true blessing of the gods that they did not suffer. Elizabeth said that it really happened. They all arrived so happy, and Zik apologized, saying that it was not very nice of them. The girl asked if their meeting was some kind of date, and he replied that he just came to visit her and would soon return to the medical station, and at that moment, a bull-like monster apologized to them for the delay. The protagonist turned to him, smiled, and said that he was glad to see that he was okay, to which the monster replied that if it were not for him, none of this would have happened. Elizabeth agreed with him and said that the boy lifted the curse from every monster in the dungeon and hired them all. It's strange how deep the heart of this country is here, to which the bull replied that they should thank Sophia for everything. The girl turned to the bull with a very sad face and said that she told him so much in the dungeon, but the monster interrupted her and said that there was nothing terrible about it. This happens to everyone. The main character said that yesterday's enemy is today's friend. It doesn't matter what happened in the past. The main thing is what is now. Elizabeth agreed with him. The girl said that people, beastmen, and even monsters laugh and live together. He created this, and it is so wonderful that they decided to move here just for this reason. The main character asked her if it was true, then said that, in his opinion, it was because of the delicious food, to which Elizabeth, with her mouth full, replied that the food here is really wonderful. At that moment her team called her. She apologized to Zik and said she had to go. They had dinner, and it surprised her because she had already eaten a lot. Then he noticed a scar on her cheek. The main character said that next time he saw her, he would fix it, and the girl replied that it was okay, it was an old scar. She touched him with her hand and said that it was a memory of the people she had met, her memories. For her it was like a medal. The main character looked at her a little surprised, then said that it was a scar that did not need to be treated. He understood everything. Zik asked her what kind of memories they were, to which the leader replied that it was too delicate a question and he should be ashamed. The boy immediately began to apologize, saying he did not want to offend her, and the girl just smiled and said she was joking. Elizabeth turned to him, winked, and said she would tell him when they got to know each other better. Zik smiled and replied that he understood everything and would try. At the same time, Chichen was sitting in the bushes watching their meeting. The bull looked at her in shock. It seemed strange to him. And in another place, an unknown person asked the diamond dragon if the boy was really named Zik. The dragon answered affirmatively and said that it seemed he could help him, to which the interlocutor replied that he would visit him. When the dragon asked to prepare others, he was told that there was no need for that. The diamond dragon asked the master to wait, but he went to look for the main hero and said that his dear child would still have to endure a little longer. The king roared that the S-class party, Twilight Dragon, had left the country, then waved it off. Nonsense, to which a guild member said he did not know the details. Apparently, they left for personal reasons. The man loudly complained that they were sent on such a noble mission, and they dared to abandon it. To this, the interlocutor coldly replied, "Calm down, your majesty." The prime minister asked in surprise what it meant that they had left the country, and the guild member replied ironically that he never suspected they were in the prime minister's service, so he should know better. The king, outraged, asked what to do now, to which the prime minister replied that he had found only a few resignation letters, but did not know why. The king barked that in any case he did not need bad fame, and the group that fled from him must be immediately replaced. He called them incompetents. Then the guild member turned to him and asked why he seemed not to understand what was happening in the country. The man indignantly asked again what he was saying. The worker sighed and said that not only Elizabeth and her friends had fled the country, recently, they had been receiving requests to deal with escaped magical beasts, pets at large, and other nonsense. After all, the government is responsible for this security, so they want to ask the king what the government intends to do. When the king and prime minister learned about the scattered animals, they instantly thought of the main hero. The king exploded with curses and said he could not believe that Zik was involved, and the worker asked them to calm down. After that, the men kicked them out, saying that if they were going to make a fuss, let them do it outside. The king asked how he dared to be so rude, since he had just kicked the king in the leg but still asked about the snow. The premier turned to the king, noticing something terrifying above. The king said he didn't think anything could be worse, but when he looked back, a huge dragon appeared in the sky. The guild member shouted that it was a dragon, then asked in horror, "What is it doing in the city center, and where are the patrols looking?" The ice dragon, looking at them, said that the human settlement where the veterinarian is located is much harder to find than she thought. She is looking for a man named Zik, a famous veterinarian. The guild member asked her if she was threatening him. The dragon, looking at them, thought that she understood everything. None of the humans could understand the dragon's language. She wondered what to do. The king asked the people why they were standing there, and added that this must be destroyed. A worker replied that they had not done anything yet, and there was no need to provoke the beast. The premier said it was already too late to do anything. Then the guild members grabbed the premier by his clothes and said they would collect their taxes themselves. The king, looking at them, decided that they were good for nothing. Someone shouted to him that he was in trouble, and the man turned around. A squad of mercenaries stood before him. It turned out to be a group of mercenaries, hungry wolves, or rather a gang of thugs led by the leader Lamaba, and they have a skill. They know how to defeat old dragons. The premier approached the king and sharply asked where he got the mercenaries. The king coldly replied that he recruited them himself because his interlocutor was useless. Then his subordinate hotly declared that if he allowed such scoundrels to stay here, the castle would not be safe, and even mentioned a reward, but the king interrupted him. "This is not your business, the premier should handle it." Then the king turned to Lamaba with a smile and said that they came at just the right time, after which he immediately ordered to get rid of the dragons. Then the mercenary leader sharply ordered the man to kneel. The king asked him again, to which he replied that he said to kneel when you ask someone for something. You must follow the rules of etiquette. He said it was nonsense. After this, Lemobai and his team turned around and left, saying that he suddenly felt cold, so they would head to warmer countries. Then the king shouted and asked them to wait. The leader, with a bored look, asked what the king wanted from them if he couldn't even kneel. The king got angry and then looked around. After this, the king fell to his knees, bowed low to the floor, and begged for help to deal with the dragon, and Lambob immediately laughed to tears. The boy laughed loudly and said that everyone should look at this great king. This is a real masterpiece. That king was still kneeling, and his whole body trembled with rage and shame. Lambob said that he had amused him, then turned to his team and said that they would now go kill monsters. Everyone agreed, and the dragon at that moment did not even expect anyone to approach him. He thought that people were discussing something, maybe even understood her words, but at that moment they attacked her. Lambob turned to his teammates and asked if they would join, otherwise he would kill him himself. The ice dragon thought that she was terribly angry. At that moment, the mercenaries decided to use all available charges to squeeze as much reward from him as possible. All the mercenaries simultaneously rushed at the dragon, shouting "Die!" The king immediately raised his fists in joy and exclaimed that they had succeeded. Lambob chuckled and cheerfully exclaimed that this was bingo, but at that moment a barrier jumped out in front of him. It turned out it was set by the main hero, who shouted at everyone to stop what they were doing, and that boy was immediately recognized. The king shouted his name. The ice dragon, looking at him, thought that he had finally found Zik. He turned to the ice dragon and said that he had heard about her from the diamond dragon. Lambob shouted at Zik not to interfere, then asked if he was on the side of the animals. Zik replied that he took no side, he just couldn't leave the wounded because he was called a good person. That boy attacked the main hero with a weapon, but he simply smashed it to pieces. Lambob, shocked, asked if he really broke a bullet made of the hardest orichalcum with his bare hands. At that moment, the ice dragon groaned. The heroine realized that she was in very bad condition, they would have to hurry. After that, Zik decided to use his paralyzing ability. All the mercenaries, everyone who tried to attack the dragon, instantly froze. The main hero, looking at this, thought that it seemed he was getting better, not only in healing magic. The king glanced at everyone and asked if Zik had done this. The prime minister, also stunned, replied that yes. The king admitted that he did not know he was so strong. Mint shouted to her brother that she was ready, and he replied that good they would take the ice dragon and teleport. The sister added that she would be teleported to the Beastman kingdom, and the dragon himself asked to do exactly that. The king called Zik by name and said that he had done a great deed by coming to help the country in its most difficult time. They would forget that battle and consider returning him to office. However, the main hero did not react to this at all. The king said that he simply ignored him, calling him a damn dragon lover. At that moment, Zik began to examine the ice dragon. He said that the egg was stuck inside, she was having problems with childbirth, and all this was an extremely dangerous situation. He asked her why she had come to the city in such a condition, because it could very well have been that he would not have made it in time.
Igni jumped out of the hole in the wall and fell to the ground, stood before Celia, and she said she knew him, he was the winner of the tournament.
It was Elrond, the king of dragons himself. Zik asked in surprise if he meant the king of ice dragons, and Tiffany greeted him with a smile, calling him the divine king of dragons. Elrond told her that they had not seen each other for a long time, calling her the princess of the divine beast, and Mint told Zik that he was the supreme god of all dragons. The man smiled and said it was true, he was the great, winged Elrond. He was glad that a human child knew him, and Zik asked how such a great king ended up here. Elrond said that the ice dragon was his 7th wife. He noticed that lately she had been acting strangely, but he did not know that she was carrying a child under her heart. Then he turned to her and asked why she had hidden it. Mint turned to the dragoness and quietly asked if she was really afraid of all this struggle for the throne, to which she answered affirmatively. The ice dragon said that if she had given birth to the child before the queen, a scandal would have erupted, so she decided to hide with the baby. The king said it was true. If she gave birth, it would be his first child. He was not as categorical as other kings. He would sincerely rejoice at the birth of their child, and the dragoness blushed at these words. Elrond, with a quiet commanding smile, declared that as punishment for leaving him even for a moment, she would have to feel his love even more strongly than before, and of course together with the child, and the ice dragon thanked him for this. The main character apologized to them for interrupting their touching conversation, but the matter was too serious, and the king said he understood. Elrond turned to Zik and asked if he could save the ice dragon. Zik replied that he would save her, but there were a few nuances. He fears that now natural childbirth can be forgotten. In his opinion, there is only one way out to make an incision. Then Elrond asked if it was really necessary for a man to touch the dragon's body, to which he heard a firm yes and an explanation. It is in the interests of the mother and child. The king smiled and said he gave permission. His aura spoke for itself. He asked to keep 2 of his favorite dragons, to which Zik replied that he did not need to be told twice. After that, they laid the dragon on the ground, belly up. The main character began to use his magic for the necessary manipulations, and then took out a scalpel and the entire medical kit. Then, together with his team and werebeasts, they helped the ice dragon give birth, and later he pulled the egg from her body and said that everything succeeded. Tiffany said that he did it. Elrond asked if the baby was safe, to which Zik replied that everything was fine, could feel the baby's living, pulsating wings beating. Suddenly, a crack appeared on the eggshell. Chachin exclaimed that it was incredible. The dragon was about to be born. The man said to hold on tight and meet him. The main hero himself was shocked by what was happening. The ice dragon also asked him about it. Mint reassured him. Don't worry, dragons are not prone to instant attachment, to which he asked again if it was true. In a few moments the egg completely cracked, and a little dragon emerged from it. Everyone was touched by how tiny and cute it was. Then the dragon looked at him with its small shiny eyes. This surprised Zik, and then he touched its lips with his nose. People around froze. Chichin could not find words. Asked about the newborn. Tiffany said she wanted that too, and Zik insisted that they stop and not disturb the dragon. Elrond smiled and said that the main hero did an excellent job, then thanked him, and the boy modestly replied that everything was fine, it was a usual matter. The king said that humility is not respect. The open birth of a dragon is beyond the power of any ordinary creature. High medical skills, immense magical power, and experience in reading various types of kai. Elrond smiled and said that only the main hero could do this. He was grateful to him for being here. He was embarrassed by his words. The king said that he must leave now, and when Zek asked about his wife and child, the man replied that he apologized but was forced to leave her with him temporarily. Elrond turned away, his face empty, and said he needed to think about someone. Meanwhile, in the palace, the king burst out shouting over the damage caused and immediately ordered a report to be prepared about it. The prime minister said that due to the cold, probably because of dragon, several accidents occurred and the harvest was damaged, but thanks to Zik's actions, it did not turn into a big problem. The man was surprised by these words. The king asked indignantly what this was supposed to mean. Because of him, he actually took the side of this bad doctor, and the subordinate calmly replied that he was simply reporting the facts. At that moment, a stranger interrupted the conversation and said that it was terrible, could not imagine that the main hero lived in such a place. The men instantly turned at the sound, and it turned out to be the god dragon. The king immediately shouted that these were his private chambers and immediately asked who allowed him to enter. The prime minister said that he seemed to have seen him somewhere. Elrond, surprisingly, is also a king. He introduces himself and loudly declares that he is the god of dragons, the great winged one who rules over all dragons. The prime minister immediately asked him again whether he was really a king or a god, and clarified that he was actually all dragons. The king immediately asked Elrond what he was doing here. The man said that the ice dragon who had previously appeared in these lands was his wife. She wished no harm to anyone, but was injured during the attack. The man looked at them seriously and said that he was looking for the culprit, then asked if by any chance they knew him. The men turned pale and asked him about it again. The prime minister said that he saw everything. They were hungry wolves, as he remembered a gang with that name attacked the dragon. At first the king reproached him, then agreed, saying that it was so. Elrond addressed Lamabu, said that the king had already spoken, and immediately asked him about it. Meanwhile, the boy stood all beaten and barely managed to admit that he did it, but only by the king's order. The second immediately denied everything, said that he knew nothing, that the prime minister did it, and that he had nothing to do with the attack, and the one who was named was surprised by his words. Elrond closed his eyes in irritation and said coldly that enough is enough, retribution will come. They will pay for all the crimes against his people. After that, the god dragon became terribly angry. He roared, his body began to change, and taking on a dragon form, he partially destroyed the royal castle. Elrond said that this time he would consider it an accident and leave them alone, but next time he would use the full power of the dragons to destroy them, let them remember. The king and the premier lay on the ground, barely able to move. Then the Khan approached them and asked if he had missed the most interesting part. The king greeted him, calling him a hero. At that moment, a small dragon shouted the hero's name and flew to him. He smiled at her and called her Shia. He lifted her up, she greeted him. He said he was home, then asked if she had been a good girl today. She answered affirmatively, but added that there was one but, after which she turned around. Chai-chan stood not far from them and was not very happy. Zeke asked what happened. She replied that everything seemed fine, except even small things come to life in the main hero's house. Zeke said he could do nothing about it. Elrond and the ice dragon were interested in this, so he agreed, to which the girl replied that he could refuse to do the favor if asked. Chai-chan said she had lived with the main hero all her life, and now her sister had returned this new girl, whom the dragon called Shia. The girl instantly turned around and asked what he meant, and the dragon replied that she was not knew her name was Shay, and Zeke gave her that name. The other said that it was true she got it thanks to the sky blue scales, after which he asked what she did not like. Chai-chan replied that it was not about that. Why did he even name someone else's child? Mint said that dragons value family above all. The fact that a stranger was allowed to name his child made Elrond sincerely grateful to Zeke for allowing it, and he said he could do nothing about it. The main character said hopefully what he thought they would get along, but at that very moment everything around changed. Darkness, no familiar person nearby. He asked who was there, and a stranger answered from the darkness, "What do you want?" A girl appeared before him and said not to worry, she just had one question for him. She introduced herself as Olna and added that she would ask again what he wanted. The main character struggled to say that it was difficult for him, he was just trying to help everyone he could, after which he asked her if she was not asking him about that. The girl said that people, monsters, gods, beasts, and dragons were gathering around him, different species that normally would never meet, but they laughed beside him and trust each other, and she asked why and how this was even possible. Zeke replied that he just helps those who can help him, and everything else comes by itself. His path and the power of the gods are in his hands, and everyone around is the result of his actions. The heroes smiled at her and said there was no need to separate them, people and animals are all the same. Olna did not respond to this. Then he was called by name. Zeke apologized and asked what he was told. Kikian asked what was wrong with him, to which the boy, a little confused, replied that he was just lost in thought and apologized to her. Mint immediately called him. The main character ran out onto the street and saw 3 dragons flying straight at him. He asked what had happened, and one of them answered that he had to go with them because there was a problem. Meanwhile, near the western gates, the guards said they were not informed when exactly they were supposed to arrive from the border, so they would have to wait for confirmation. McKen asked what waiting for confirmation meant. He said it was just bureaucracy. In such moments one has to improvise. He asked if they really did not know him, and then said that he was the hero McCann. One guard thought that this was the best the kingdom of Get and Yuga could offer. Another wondered why he was here, and the soldiers who came with the hero shouted that the hero was already here, so the gates had to be opened. At that moment, McCann decided to hit that talkative guard from his team and asked what he was even saying. The hero got very angry and sharply told them to stop annoying him with their stupid thoughts. The Beastmen guards decided that he was completely insane and that people like him should not be allowed into the country. McCann turned to them and said not to worry, just let him in, he would handle the rest himself. When one of the guards tried to stop him, the hero instantly punched a hole in the gates. The guards said that these were huge gates made of indestructible stones with sentries around the perimeter, and Mackin replied that that was exactly his power. The hero shouted that they had to let him through, but the guard said to wait, letting him through was forbidden by the rules. McKin got even angrier and started yelling that they were annoying him. At that moment he raised his hand up and, as if calming everyone down, said that everything was fine now, they would play, but they should remember, the first move was theirs and he was not to blame. At the same time, a huge black sphere appeared above him. McCann noted that behind them stood the guards' houses. If he burned down the whole village, they would probably become more compliant. The men were surprised by his words. The hero went even more insane. He shouted for them to look at how much magic had already accumulated. He could blow up not only their houses, but the entire country. At that very moment, the main hero appeared before him. He knelt on one knee, raised his eyes to McCann, and asked if he was really the same hero. Zick said he had heard rumors from the kingdom. Apparently, he had come for him. McCann looked at his hands and said that his magic had disappeared and wondered if it was a distraction. Macon asked the hero if he was Zick, then said that the king had sent him to bring him back and begged so comically. The boy smiled and said he was glad that Zick had come himself because he really did not want to find out what a disgusting stench was here, and he had forgotten deodorant at home, to which the main hero replied that he better go home. McCann, with a crazy smile, asked again about what he had just said. It was clear that he did not expect such an answer. Zick declared that it was time for him to return home. He was no longer a citizen of Jeddah. He was from Neragma, the land of animals, and he was not going anywhere, and Mackin coldly replied. Honestly, he did not care about those words. At that moment, a magical circle appeared around the boy, pushing the other guards back. He exclaimed that he was terribly nervous when Zick had cornered him in such a position, then asked him to be a good adult and listen to him. One of his squad said that the king had ordered to take Zick alive, to which he replied that he knew, then asked what that was supposed to mean. If he just tore out his eye and returned it, would that be okay? After that, Mackin summoned the Holy Sword, said that this was the power of heroes, and then ordered Zick to die. At that moment, the hero decided to use his paralyzing skill. It struck everyone without exception, and Mackin immediately roared. It turned out that the shockwave knocked him down and threw him onto the stones. The guard asked if he was okay, and he barked for him to shut up and step back, otherwise he would die. Suddenly Macken realized that he had inflicted paralysis. This was a skill of the lowest rank. Did he really pierce the holy sword with it? He could not believe this was happening. He thought it was a bluff. Zik pretended to use another skill, but in reality activated a much more powerful one and called him a vile traitor. The main hero looked at him seriously and said, "If you don't want to get hurt, just go home." Mahen laughed and said that it seemed he wanted to try, but he was a brave warrior who had received the blessing of the goddess, then asked if he understood that or not. That boy said he could suppress all the magic used by ordinary people, and as long as his barrier was raised, any attribute magic was powerless, and he would slowly accumulate magical power to destroy Zik. At that moment, the main hero turned his hand into an icy stream, and Mac Ken, as if after an electric shock, asked if this was ice and snow magic. He called him smart, but it seemed as if he did not quite hear. But while he was speaking, Zeke had already flown past and hit him. McCann coughed, then asked with a furious look what he had just done. The main hero said that this was Misty Ice Alchemy, a divine skill, but he obtained it through a connection with a dragon. It seemed to work better than the goddess's skill, and McCann said that was impossible. After that, the boy fell to the ground. Exhaustedly, a cough escaped from his chest. Shichen said that Zeke's mastery in Misty and Ice Alchemy had increased by 32. The Beastmen guards asked if McCann was dead, and I replied that I didn't think so, was one of the strongest heroes in the world. Zeke shouted to the men who had come with the boy and ordered them to take him away and tell him not to come back. The men agreed. After some time, the main hero found himself in Queen Sophia's castle and told her what had happened, adding that he had sent McCanavy, but the girl remained silent. The main hero began to get nervous. He asked if he had done something wrong, and the girl, hesitating, replied that indeed he had. Sophia said that although the news had not reached them, the hero had come to their country as a messenger, and whatever had happened, it was clear that Getini Yuga had caused them trouble, and Zeke said he was very sorry. The beast guards apologized and admitted that they had made the first move. The hero defended them. If the guards were guilty, it was only for failing to complete their mission. They agreed to accept any punishment. Zeke was surprised by their words. Sophia said they had no intention of punishing anyone, but the king would not back down. If it became known that they had kidnapped someone as important as Zeke, it could provoke a full-scale war between human states. He loudly declared that he had come here voluntarily, and the girl looked at him and said that if he could not prove this truth before the whole world, it was just empty words, after which the guards asked her to speak. One of them said he had suggested making Zeke a knight. If people saw that he was not just a pawn but an important citizen of the country, it would not be so easy to get to him. The girl replied that it was a good idea.
Alicia grabbed Ian by the stomach. Ian uttered a spell, his legs disappeared, a whirlwind of air swirled around the boys, and Ian raised his hand and thought that due to the proximity to demonic lands, he could not use this spell.
She said they would make him a royal person. The main character immediately called her by name, and Sophia at that moment said it was a wonderful idea. He immediately called her by name. Night fell. The main character said that he was indeed knighted. The country's inhabitants are so frivolous not only in parliament, but also in the square, and everyone was unanimous. At that moment, his sister went out onto the balcony to see him. She said that they just love him very much. He immediately called her by name. Min noted that no one likes it when the main star leaves the party, and he calmly replied that now, since the ceremony was over, it was time to enjoy the evening. She nodded, understood everything. Elron and Tiffany were also standing on the balcony. The main character turned to his sister and asked if she wanted a drink, adding that the minimum drinking age here was 15 years. She thought for a moment and said she would take a sip, after which he handed her a glass. Mint first looked carefully at the glass and its contents, then took a small sip. Her face instantly flushed, and she enthusiastically said it was incredibly tasty. The main character agreed with her. The girl returned the glass to him and quietly said that she was still a child, although she really wanted to experience many things. Zik smiled sweetly and said that perhaps there are things better not done. She put her hand on her chest and wanted to say which ones exactly, but suddenly they saw something. Mint hurriedly asked what was happening, and the main character muttered that it was happening again and turned to Elaine, who suddenly appeared nearby. Zik said she did not know all the details, but probably she was not an enemy. Alina stated that she understood everything, so Mint was also one of them, and added that they would have to obey her. The girl said that today she came to ask for a favor. She needed the main character's help as a veterinarian. She took off the hood and said that help was needed to heal her father, the Lord of Demons. The next day, a crowd gathered near the royal castle. They shouted that he needed to be changed and demanded to know what was happening in the country at all. Plague broke out on the state farms, food prices skyrocketed, the guards went mad, order got out of control, and public institutions were recently abandoned because there were not enough people to repair the castle. The prime minister immediately rushed to the king's office, shouting that something needed to be done about this situation as soon as possible. He looked around, then addressed the one in charge here and asked, "What is going on at all?" One of the guards shouted that the hero Maken was to blame for everything. Maken swore loudly and destroyed everything that came into his hands. Maken looked ahead and resolutely said that he would never forgive that scoundrel, would see the matter through to the end, and make him see the light. The guard said that the hero had been like that since he returned. The king tried to restrain him, but as you can see, nothing helped. The latter lay on the floor, unconscious. The hero was called by name and ordered to stop saying, "You are disturbing people." It was Tan, and he said that he always told him to behave calmly, to which Tan snapped, "Shut up and don't tell me what to do." Tan said that although the king gathered them, the goal of their group was to defeat the Lord of Demons, so it should not be forgotten. The heroes just burst out laughing. Makan asked why he called it a group. He replied that it was just a bunch of weak people trying to increase their number, and without him, they would all have died already. Suddenly, one of the girls screamed that they had found the main hero. Makan asked where he was, and then said he would kill him right now. It turned out Zik was in the Lord of Demons' castle. Then Makan smiled with anticipation and said that it was time to give them all a bloody slaughter. Evening came and the main hero together with Alina reached the castle. The girl asked if he was afraid after all. They came without escort, to which he replied that he did not think it was a trap. Zik admitted that his only fear was unexpected heroes, so Mint and the rest stayed behind. The main hero asked Alina if she was sure everything would be fine, because she decided to bring a person into the demon's citadel, and Alina tried to say that she was doing it for her father. But at that very moment she was seized by unbearable pain. She fell to the ground and screamed. Zik, frightened, asked the girl what had happened. When he approached her, it flashed through his mind. Was it some kind of curse? And at that moment a voice sounded. The princess was not supposed to do this. An unknown man said that openly making such vulgar sounds was improper, and asked her opinion, and the girl called him Jammer. The man asked what made their princess bring some weak man to their lands. The main hero looked at him seriously, apologized for his character, and introduced himself. "My name is Zik Vitalinari, I am a veterinarian." Jammer immediately stretched his mouth into a wide smile and said that he was a doctor. That's the point. The man said that he would have to report to him, because he was taking on the position of prime minister instead of the ruler of the Sikhs, and advised him not to do anything stupid. Jammer asked Delaney if she felt better, and she replied that overall everything was fine more or less. The girl said that she asked Zik to examine her father. No one in the castle could cure him, so an outside opinion was needed, to which the man quietly chuckled and said that everything was fine. Then Jammer smiled slyly again and asked if it still wouldn't help, and the main hero looked at him suspiciously. After some time, Zik and Olna finally reached the chambers of the demon lord, and the girl tremblingly asked him to come to the bed and examine her father. He thought he understood what she meant, but it turned out demons are not entirely faithful either. He thought that Jammer was probably the culprit of the girl's curse, judging by how he spoke. He was too conservative. If so, then the demon lord's illness has the same origin. When the hero looked at the body of the demon lord, it seemed to him that it was the same curse, only not as strong as Alina's. Zik said that the condition was terrible. A powerful curse devours the whole body like a web, and if treated in the usual way, the man would simply fall apart. The girl listened to his words in surprise, and the man behind laughed. The heroes thought that they were demons. Their bodies were too different from the bodies of humans, beasts, and monsters, and the flow of magic was strange, as if from a completely different dimension. Jammer asked what happened, then noted that he looked unwell. Didn't he promise to heal him, calling himself a human doctor? The main hero decided to ignore him. He looked at his palm and thought about the power that healed the dragon. Then he turned to the girl and asked if she believed him. She answered, yes. After that, Zik put his hands forward and used the skill God's Hand. Its power impressed Alina, and Jammer asked in surprise if it was really healing magic. He said it was funny they were really so uninformed, because such magic is extremely poisonous to demons. What would happen if it was applied to a defenseless demon lord? At that moment, the girl's father opened his eyes. The demon lord sat on the bed and asked where he had ended up. Olna burst into tears of happiness and called her father. Jammer was surprised by what was happening. The girl instantly rushed to her father, and he asked if it was really her. Jammer was very shocked by what was happening. Elena told her father that he had overslept too long, but the human doctor cured him. The man returned to Zik and thanked him for the help. Zik replied that it was his job. The girl asked why this helps. Jammer picked up her question and said that he possesses healing magic that is extremely poisonous to demons. The main character replied that he did not know for sure, but he did not doubt success. His divine abilities were becoming stronger each time, and perhaps the meeting with the girl and his desire gave him even more strength. Jimmer said that it was nonsense, that it could not be so, no mortal could break that curse. The Lord of Demons turned to him and said that he did it after all, no one else would have guessed such a thing. Jamer burst out laughing and said that he had hoped so much, as if he would remain his puppet, and an extraordinarily cunning smile played on his face. Suddenly everything changed. The man said there was nothing to be done, he would destroy everyone who stood in his way. Jemmer said that although the Lord is currently healthy, in a depleted state, he will not win. Jemmer cannot wait for the stomach contractions to completely dissolve them. The Lord said that the room itself was his magic. He noticed that the man had thought everything through carefully, and Alina asked if it was time for praise and what they should do now. Jammer giggled uncontrollably. He said he did not think he would have to use a complex magical beast, but there was no other way at that moment. The protagonist used Misty Ice alchemy. After this, Zik cut the monster in half with a single blow, and Jammer, stunned, asked if it was really a specially bred S-class demonic creature meant to kill the demon lord that was destroyed by a human. At that moment, the protagonist picked up the girl in his arms, turned to the man, and said it was time to give her what she deserved, but Jammer replied that it was too early. He called the demon lord's army and ordered them to be killed. The demon lord asked if the entire army was under this man's control. Olna began to worry, but the protagonist was not worried at all. He used his paralysis skill. After that, all the demons froze in place. Jammer asked confusedly if it was really paralysis, and then disappeared. The hero was boiling with rage. Teleportation crystals again, first Zeroa, then the elf, and now this. It seemed they were bought wholesale, and the demon lord said that this very man was distributing them. The man said in surprise that he couldn't believe it. He managed to destroy their army, and he even called him a human doctor. Zik, however, noted with surprise that the sworn enemy of humanity, the demon lord, could speak so calmly. Olna said she didn't know what people thought of him, but her father had always been a great ruler and a good father. The man replied that it was no wonder he had a bad reputation. The Lord and the protagonist spoke simultaneously about the demon lord's curse. The protagonist said that all monsters in the world are cursed. They go mad and attack people. The demon lord said that it was true, but it was not his fault, and suggested taking a look. He took off his outer garment and bared his chest, showing a demonic mark. The master said that this was the founder's curse. The protagonist repeated his words and fell silent thoughtfully. The man explained that this mark was left by Belial, the first young demon, founder of their kind. The emblem appears on every subsequent demon king and never disappears, and as long as it exists, their kind will be under its influence. Zik said he understood everything. The man said that this curse strengthens the ruler's power and embodies the ideals conceived by Belial. Therefore, no matter how much time passes, demons will remain only enemies of humanity. Olna said that not all demons crave pointless fights, and her father was simply looking for a way to live, and it was then that Jammer took advantage of this. The main hero said that he could help get rid of this curse, if he doesn't mind. The Lord asked if he could really remove the curse that had bound kings one after another for generations, to which he replied that there were no guarantees. The main hero said that this power was given to him to help those in trouble. He cannot abandon them when they get into trouble. Zik looked at him seriously. The Lord Demon, noticing the firm, determined look in his eyes, said he would trust him and asked to break this chain of the curse. The man said he was ready even to give his life, so that the next generation would not have to bear this curse. After that, the Lord of Demons knelt before him. The hero extended his hand and felt as if a god was before him, and in his thoughts, this was the true, primal Lord of Demons. He also wondered who was stronger, made promises beyond his power, but somehow the key to everything ended up in his hands. The Lord of Demons looked at what was happening and was quite surprised. Elena said that the main hero's power reacts to the mark of the curse. Zik closed his eyes and thought that then he could heal everyone, even the lords of demons and gods. The Lord of Demons turned around and saw that Zik's magic had permeated the entire castle. The girl immediately called him. Tiffany listened to Sophia. She said that the main hero received the title of Savior from the King of Demons, the evolution of existence, Dr. Salvation. It seems he is safe. The demon lord looked at his body and said that the original curse was lifted. He did not even imagine that it had affected not only him, but the entire castle, so it was not so easy to remove. The man, impressed that the main hero knew about this, called him a master, and he replied, "No, that's not true at all, it's all thanks to the gods." The demon lord said that even a power like shyness, without skillful application, is nothing, and he was glad that it was him. Zik blushed at his words. The man said that thanks to him, the demon race would be able to take the next step, and Olna joined in, saying that they were very grateful. She was so glad she brought him here. The main hero asked the girl to close her eyes for a moment. She first asked again, then blushed, but did as he asked, and at the same time seemed to purse her lips, ready for a kiss. Zik simply touched her hair and said that everything was ready. He apologized because he forgot to remove the curse from her, but now everything should be fine. Alin asked him again, and from his words she blushed deeply and sincerely thanked him for the help. The demon lord noted that the girl had a strange expression on her face, so the girl asked her father not to tease her, and the protagonist, puzzled, asked what it was all about. At that moment, cries came from the side. An unknown person shouted for the demon lord to come out, calling him a scoundrel, and Zik recognized that voice. Everyone went out to the balcony to see what was going on. It was hero McCann who said he would destroy them all. Then they all stood opposite each other, and McCann told Zik that he had seen what he found in New Friends, to which Zik retorted that McCann was even dumber than he thought. Olna said that they were so careless, they just removed the castle's protective mechanism to invite the hero inside, to which he replied that it was all right. Zik turned to the hero and asked if he was really here to defeat the demon lord, to which Macken replied reassuringly not to worry. The main hero said that he had lifted the curse that was driving monsters and demons insane, no more fighting was needed, and Macken asked him again in shock. Zeke asked him about what he had not seen, then added that the demon lord had no intention of allowing demons to cause chaos, he just wanted them to live in peace, and Macken asked again. The hero said coldly, he did not care whether this ruler was good or evil, he was a hero, and needed no other reason to kill that man. He also ordered Zik to be killed. Macken said that he would pay for the crimes that brought him such shame, and he would not forgive him even after 100 days of torture. The main hero also used a paralysis skill, but Tan appeared before him and used the skill of the ecliptic barrier. Zik was stunned for the first time a barrier appeared before him, and his power failed, while the opponents were already preparing to act. The dark-haired man performed the technique Heavenly Demon Palm, and the ground beneath the feet of the main hero, the demon lord, and his daughter cracked and collapsed downward. The main hero tightly embraced Olna. He said that, as he expected from heroes, they were not like everyone else at all. Macken laughed and said that last time Zik caught him by surprise, but this time he would not give him a single chance. The hero shouted loudly to the whole team, destroy the enemies, let them pay, they all must be finished off. Members of his team threw various skills into the battle, Circle of Fire of Purgatory, Vacuum Blade of the Typhoon, and Heavenly Thunderous Cleaving Sword. And finally, the skill 10 destructive spells worked. The demon lord said that it was precise power and coordination simply brilliant. Alina called Zik, and he replied that it was not such a big problem. Then the main hero's hand suddenly shone. The girl turned to him and called his name again, and he thought it was a new power. Suddenly a strike hit the place where the demon lord, his daughter, and the boy were standing. Macken asked what he had actually destroyed, and Tan replied no. When the smoke cleared, the silhouette of the main hero and the demon lord appeared, who was holding his daughter in his arms. The opponents roared that he was unharmed, and Macken asked what exactly he was holding in his hand. When the hero saw the sword in his hands, he asked why he had the sacred sword, to which the main character replied that he did not understand how it happened. The demon lord said that the sword was imbued with the hero's power, and he needed this power. He, as the demon lord, could confirm this. Macken exploded with swearing and said that he did not care whether it was a bluff or a lie. In this world, two heroes are not needed. Tan said that it was true, there is only one hero here. The boy said that these were the right words. He was the only one, and suddenly something surprised him. It turned out that Tan knelt before the main hero, introduced himself, and said that he was giving his life into his hands. Makana asked what kind of nonsense this was. Why work for this man? He is the only one whom a real man should follow. Tan turned to the boy, called him by name, and asked if he could summon his holy saber. Macken said that of course he could manage, he was brave. He tried himself but failed. The hero began to ask why this was happening, cursed several times, then asked the sword why it was silent, and suddenly Tang addressed him by name. The man told him that he was no longer a hero, perhaps even the goddess had abandoned him. The demon lord and his daughter were shocked. The king was boiling with rage at that moment. He ate canned food, cursed, and asked why he had to live like this. One of his guards advised him to endure until the crowd left the castle. He said that people were stupid, they had forgotten their duty to him, and treated him very badly. Popular demonstrations turned into riots, and the king was forced to flee the castle. The man turned to the guard and asked where the prime minister had gone, and the guard replied that he had not seen him and was probably dealing with the rebellion. The king began to shout that everyone was useless, then noticed a magical seal and asked what it was, and the guard replied that it was a teleportation spell and asked him to be careful. When the man saw that some people had appeared here, he shouted. The lord apologized, saying he had miscalculated the coordinates. The king looked closer and, with obvious surprise, asked if it was really Zik. The guard was also shocked. The man asked what the main hero was doing here and what he wanted, then said that it was all because of him, and also asked what those guys were doing with him. Zik closed his eyes and sighed it was hard for him to talk to this man. Tang asked for permission to explain everything. The latter said that Zik had accepted the hero's title from McKenna, who had stood against the Demon Lord, and managed to convince him. The Demon Lord revealed who he really was, and added that thanks to Zik's power, he no longer had any reason to fight humans. On behalf of all demons, he sincerely apologized for all his past deeds. The king was shocked, asked what was happening, and added that he was strangely quiet even for the Lord of Demons. The man turned to the hero and in a passionate tone said, "You are a true man of action. Not only did you defeat the Lord of Demons, but you also captured him alive." Zik vainly tried to explain the situation with the demons to the king, but he did not listen. The king turned to the guards and ordered them to prepare a public execution was awaited, and that man asked them again. The king said that as soon as he managed to convince the people, he was sure he would be remembered as the king who brought peace to the world, and Zik asked what exactly he meant.
But suddenly he stretches out his hand and fiercely replies that popularity is gained only by attracting attention with charisma, convincing the hero that this is the foundation of everything. Sitting next to Lily, Igni remembers that
The Lord of Demons said that everything was fine. Lifting the curse did not cancel what had happened before. It was a small price, the life of one person. The king said that after the execution they would hunt other monsters, and when they grew up they would be easy to exterminate, after which a stadium could be built where people could enjoy hunting them. It would become a great relief for the people. At that moment the main hero clenched his fists very tightly. It was clear that he was angry, after which he called out to the king. The man turned and saw that Zik was holding the hero's sacred sword, which shone as brightly as his majesty, but at that moment the blade passed through the clothes on his body. The king immediately screamed because of what the main hero was doing, and he replied that he had already made a decision. Zik promised to build a country for everyone, where monsters could live in safety. The man asked him again. The king asked in surprise what he was talking about, whether he had really lost his mind, and the main hero replied that he had decided everything. He believed that monsters could live in peace, like people and animals. Zik added that the thing is, most of them caused people a lot of trouble, some even died, so he understands his outrage. So they need to create a country where everyone who is discriminated against can live in peace, and step by step convince everyone that they are just like everyone else. The king asked again, "What nonsense are you talking about?" and added that he can't handle it alone, to which the main character replied, "I am not alone." Above them in the sky, countless dragons were circling. Sophia said they would help him. Elrond said each of them would do it. Zek was shocked that they came to his aid. Mint said that the divine queen of beasts, the divine king of dragons, the lord of demons, it seems to her that even now the one in charge has many allies, and later there will only be more. The king frowned and asked if he was trying to conquer the world, then asked not to say that he plans to become the lord of demons. The main character turned to him with a smile and said that such things do not interest him, but if necessary, he is ready to take on that role. The Lord of Demons said that if he is destined to become the new lord, it will be easier for him. He was confident that this would make his title less frightening to people. Tiffany said, Zik receives the title of Lord of Demons, the evolution of the Savior's existence. She said that since she met him in the forest, she had a premonition it was meant to be. He went the path he believed in, and she will always stand by and help. Chichen asked what she was thinking. Does she really feel like his wife, when she is the one next to Zik? Min said they are both wrong. Her brother loves her the most, and Chichen cut in that they don't even come close to her. The Lord of Demons laughed and said that Zek will also have to take care of his daughter, to which the main character smiled. The other girls were shocked by his words. Sophia asked if he now understood what kind of situation he had gotten into. He could only watch from the sidelines. The king immediately twitched and asked if they really thought that people would follow their pack, God knows who. The man said that people would unite against them, but Sophia smiled and replied that they had already informed the neighboring countries, and Elrond added that they had seen the feats of their dragons and promised cooperation. The king did not know how to respond to these words. Sophia said sadly that it was a pity they had failed to establish cooperation with him, and after that they said goodbye to him. The man froze, turned to the guard and asked what he should do, and the guard just shrugged. I don't know. Then someone called the king. The king turned around and saw another guard. He asked what he needed. The guard replied that he had information. The townspeople who captured the castle decisively demanded the abolition of the monarchy. The parliament agreed, and a revolution broke out. The kingdom was almost destroyed, and the king again asked him about the revolution. The man was very nervous, said he did not understand anything, and then asked what it was about. The guard apologized and said that he had a family, so he could no longer accompany him. Another guard asked to wait because he would go with him himself. The king instantly shouted to them and begged them not to leave him. he sat on the ground. It was clear that he did not understand what to do next. He was called by name. It was the Prime Minister, and the king immediately asked if it was really him and where he had been. The king also asked again, "Since when does this man fly? Is this some kind of joke?" Genuine shock froze in his eyes. The Prime Minister smiled and said that he would consider himself more useful than him. After that, the man fell to the ground, and the king was shocked by what was happening. Another asked the stranger what he was doing. Then his eyes suddenly widened. It turned out to be the girl who shouted the main character's name. The castle of the Beastmen Kingdom is flourishing. A beautiful clear day illuminates the giant tree in the center of the building, and harmony and peace prevail in the air. Young Tiffany sits at the table and diligently writes something on paper, alone in a room full of flowers and large bookshelves with a huge number of books, and the silence is broken only by the sound of T moving her pen across the paper. She suddenly slams the thick textbook shut with a loud bang, happily exclaims that she has finally finished her homework, and raises her hands up in joy of victory over it. Suddenly she transformed into a fluffy and soft creature, flew out of the room, flew through her mother's throne hall and around the throne and advisors, cheerfully announced that she was going to visit Zeke, and her mother called her daughter. Queen Sophia loudly shouts to her daughter, who has already flown out the window towards Zeke, to behave, and you, in turn, assure that she will behave very diligently. When T was flying to Zeke's new home, she thought that after he announced his intention to found his own country where everyone would live side by side, he slowly but surely fulfilled his promise. Thanks to Zeke's divine gift, he was able to transform the old lands of the Demon Lord, made them fertile, and they began to bloom. Zeke was able to build new buildings there and find resources that accelerated the development of his state. New beasts and demons, who had come to their senses, rushed from all over the world to the state in search of shelter. In a matter of moments, the main character's castle turned into one of the leading cities of the continent, becoming a prosperous fortress. Hung in the air, T watches as the city blooms and thrives thanks to the efforts of Zeke, and giggles happily. Flying further into the city, T kept admiringly repeating how cool Zeke is and how much she admires him. The old castle of the demon Morta had completely changed in appearance. It became much lighter and no longer looked like a place of darkness, and even took the name of Zeke's family, Vitalinari. Princess Tiffany flew into the throne room and already began greeting everyone in advance. Flying to the throne, she hoped to see Zeke there. She is very happy to be able to meet him. She is very surprised there is no one on the throne. Confused, the room is also empty, and just then Dorothy approached from behind and called the princess. The secretary noticed that the princess had visited the new demon lord again. T asked Dorothy how things were, and the bunny girl replied that everything was fine, and Zeke and the others were very kind to her. Dorothy explains that Zeke went to fulfill his duty as the demon lord and left her alone. T notes that Zeke is working again, having left his throne, and with a cheerful smile adds that he is not just idling but dealing with important matters. A new, beautiful, and spacious livestock farm has grown in the suburbs. There Zeke performs the usual machine check, using his special ability to assess. Behind him stands an old farmer friend who, on Zeke's advice, moved to the city and happily watches the work of his favorite veterinarian, while Zeke says that the cow he examined is completely healthy. The veterinarian smiled and assured that the cow was fine. She is in excellent health, and the farmer, hearing this, beamed with joy. He was terribly worried that the health of the livestock might deteriorate due to the move, so he asked Zeke to examine the animals, and happily noted that Zeke now holds the title of Demon Lord. Zeke suddenly became modest and replied to the farmer that although people call him a hero or ruler, he does not consider himself as such. He smiled faintly and said that despite all his titles, he is just an ordinary veterinarian doing his job. The farmer became very embarrassed and laughed. His daughter appeared from behind and happily greeted the doctor. She and the cat ran up to him, handed him a jar of milk, and sincerely offered the kind doctor to try the milk from their cows. She was glowing with happiness seeing the doctor and getting a chance to thank him. The doctor joyfully took the jar and drank all the milk to the very bottom. He exhaled contentedly and said that it was very tasty milk, generously seasoned with love. The girls shone with happiness because the doctor liked the milk from their farm. The newly minted demon lord smiled, gently patted the girl on the head, and sincerely thanked her, and the girl rejoiced and said that she and her father had worked very hard to make the milk excellent. At that moment his sister and T arrived at the farm. He heard them shouting his name, and he blushed. He shyly laughed with a barely noticeable smile. The girls caught him, and the farmer picked up the joke and kindly invited them into the house. Against the backdrop of the sky, Tiffany decisively said that Zeke would not be able to do this. They were still chatting while riding on Chichen's saddle, and Princess T remarked that Zeke works too much, and even if he plans to skip, he should do it properly. The man sighed and said that he had not seen his close friend Ci in her former appearance for a long time. The girl replied that she would always be his support, no matter what form she took. The protagonist thanked his companion Sai-chan for the support. He turned to Mint, who was sitting behind, and hearing her quiet mumbling, asked what had happened. The young man smiled, noticing that Mint was working as a librarian, and asked what could be making her upset. She sadly admitted that she had hoped to spend more time with her brother. He worked in the same castle, but he was constantly busy in the field, and all the paperwork fell on her. After these words, she quietly added that she would request a transfer. The boy stopped her and said that her work is important for the children who will become the future of the country, and that he and everyone else are counting on her. The girl thoughtfully repeated the words about children, and the future rate was clear that his words deeply moved her. Mint even blushed and, misunderstanding her brother, began to dream and imagine their children with Zik. The heroes are actively discussing plans for dinner. Everyone decides to have dinner together as soon as they return to the castle. They want to take She with them to have company. The deepest part of the demon kingdom appears before USA huge funnel pulling into the abyss, and the air here is ominous and filled with fear. The old man who cursed the former demon lord and his daughter thank him for saving him. He respectfully greets the demon named Rouge. He approaches the throne of Rouge and gazes at the savior. The old man approaches him, feeling his power. Rouge silently watches him from above. Rouge, Lord of Demons, his appearance radiates strength and calm, and he closely watches how events unfold. The old man continues to speak, confessing that without Rouge's help he would have ended up in the hands of Zik's forces and that deity who blessed him, and his gratitude sounds sincere. Rouge is silent for a while. Thoughtfully looking down, the old man asks for attention. Rouge wants to show something important. A strange creature appears, a shapeless mass with horns and limbs. The old man looks at it in surprise. The creature moves and makes strange sounds. The old man explains that this is an artificial magical beast. It was acquired very recently. A barely noticeable anxiety is visible on the old man's face. Rouge tells about his attempts to care for the beast. He fed it, checked if it was hungry, but the creature refused to eat the offered food. The old man asked his interlocutor what exactly he fed that mysterious creature. In response, the Lord admitted that he gave it human remains, as if that was quite acceptable for such a creature. The old man, in surprise and slight horror, could not immediately find words. He just began to make some sound in bewilderment, as if he did not believe what he heard. He tried to justify himself, saying that the creature became like that due to circumstances, but it was still once a human, so it is better to use animal meat, not human. The demon sat like a rock, listened to the old man's excuses, and briefly replied that he understood his situation, but no emotion flashed on his face. The old man hesitantly stretched out his hand forward, as if trying to stop what was happening or to ask for mercy, because he himself did not understand what was going on. Suddenly a sharp pain pierced his whole body, and he screamed from unbearable pain as blood flowed from his body. The old man shouted in panic and asked the demon what he was doing, and the demon, sitting on the throne, calmly replied that he was simply following the local rules. He explained that, according to rumors, to gain the power of another being, one must eat the one who possesses it, thereby inheriting that power. The old man, terrified, could no longer utter a word, only quietly groaned, frozen with pain and fear of the inevitable death. The demon thoughtfully remarked that he would never have thought that his father and the arena would end up in such a story, where the foundation of the body is the power of God, who lifted the curse. Ryu slowly walks away, and the demon asks in surprise where he is going. Ryu calmly replies that he is going to sleep and asks to be woken up later, as he is completely indifferent to everything around him. The demon, in despair, asks how they will now cope with God's power, which seems invincible, and Rouge, walking away, indifferently says that he is not interested in dealing with it at all. Left alone, the demon sighs hoarsely, watching as the Lord's door closes. He is overwhelmed by helplessness and a feeling of abandonment. He does not know what to do next. Though in despair, the demon suddenly changes his tone and grimly declares that first they will deal with the power of the gods, and then with the boy named Zeke. In anger, he curses Rouge, calling him a mad freak. The demon, full of rage and determination, shouts that he will kill Zeke, and then with wildly loud laughter says that the newly born army of the demon lord will definitely destroy him. The scene shifts to the backyard of the veterinary castle, here completely different. Peaceful affairs are taking place. There is silence and calm, nothing like what was just before. In the yard, a luxurious picnic is being prepared. Baskets are overflowing with sandwiches, snacks, and desserts. Someone excitedly says how delicious everything looks, and another asks if Mint prepared it all. The girl says that usually she prepares such dinners every day only for her brother, but today she is ready to treat everyone, although usually only he has the right to eat. During the conversation, the boy says that every day he invites someone to lunch, creating a warm, friendly atmosphere around him. Tiffany admires this and is a little jealous of such a pleasant habit. Kai-chan crossed his arms and thoughtfully asks what is so special about the packed lunch. Then he adds a bit heatedly that she herself can do the same when she wants. Mint reminds her of the time when she tried to feed her brother dead mice and lizards, and Kai-chan, recalling this awkward scene, gets angry, while the people around laugh and feel a bit embarrassed. The boy tries to ease the tension by saying that every creature has its own taste in food. The animal admits that she loves rats and wonders why Zik does not share her preferences, and he, a little embarrassed, still tries to maintain a friendly atmosphere. Despite the previous misunderstanding, the girl decides not to fall behind and enthusiastically says that she will learn to cook delicious dinners, and the others encourage her and look forward to her future culinary successes with joy. During the picnic, the conversation unexpectedly turns to studying. The boy falls silent in surprise, and the sister is about to tell him something important about school matters, and the whole company listens attentively. The girl says that Alina often goes to the library and enthusiastically studies a wide variety of materials. The boy is surprised by such zeal because he had not noticed this interest in learning in her before. T asks if Alina lives in his country, reminding that she is a princess of the demon nation, and then confirms this with a smile and adds that she lives with her father, emphasizing their strong bond. The boy says that since Alina started to be interested in new things and study, it is already a good sign, and that earlier he helped free their family from the founder's curse, which had overturned their fate. Meanwhile, Mint recalls how Alina persistently sat in the library and studied. Her diligence pleased the people around, but a flicker of concern passed in her eyes, and the girl who was watching her noticed this. The hero looks thoughtfully into the distance, frowning slightly. He is immersed in thoughts, analyzing the situation and pondering what to do next, and his gaze shows slight anxiety and curiosity. Not far from the hero's castle stands a huge tree that has spread its branches over the entire area. Around stretches a quiet forest, and in the distance the outlines of the castle and mountains are visible. Alina sits on a thick branch of the tree, holding a book in her hands. She reads silently, fully immersed in the text, and the silence around is broken only by the rustling of leaves. The girl, sighing a little tiredly, momentarily breaks away from reading and closes her eyes. Sadness and pensiveness freeze on her face, as if something very important is on her mind. Suddenly her calm is disturbed. The main character unexpectedly appears behind her. The girl screams in surprise, her face full of fear, and the book almost flies out of her hands. Losing her balance from fear, the girl falls from a high branch, her hair and dress fluttering in the air, and her face full of fear and panic. The hero skillfully manages to catch her, lands on the ground in a somewhat unusual pose, and holds the girl firmly so that she does not get hurt. In his arms is a frightened but already somewhat calmed girl. The hero apologizes with a slight smile for the scare, and she, embarrassed, says that everything is fine. They talk and the hero confesses. His abilities, probably a gift from God, allow him to determine the location of people within a radius of 500 meters. The girl lowers her eyes and quietly agrees with his words. A slight embarrassment and realization are visible on her face. That is indeed the case. When the boy noticed the book, he was stunned by its content and asked if she had read that medical textbook. His curiosity was sparked by her reaction. She clearly did not expect him to notice. He admits that he has heard about her diligent studies and asks with interest why she trains so persistently. The girl is a little embarrassed and does not know how to answer properly. The girl lowers her eyes and admits that she does not know how to fight or use magic, and in her words is bitter sadness. The lack of talent does not allow her to be useful like others. The boy bit his lip and silently pondered her confession. Words did not come immediately. He tries to understand what is wrong with her and find words of support. He gently suggests talking and says he is ready to listen to her, and the girl sincerely thanks him for the support and shows how much she values the opportunity to open up. The girl confesses that she is the daughter of the demon lord, so it is not surprising that at first great powers were expected from her. She remembers, although she had a high status, she had no talents, and those close to her left one after another. Eventually, she was left completely alone. The girl recalls how other demons around openly mocked her, not hiding their malicious smiles. Her childhood was full of humiliation and loneliness. The boy sincerely sympathizes with her and sees how terrible everything she went through was. He finds it hard to understand that the girl had to hide her pain all this time. The girl admits that she lacks the qualities to lead the demon tribe, and the boy calmly says that in her position, this is not surprising. The demonic princess explains that when her father fell ill, she saw it as a chance to prove herself and show that she was needed. She hoped that by curing him, she would again attract attention and gain recognition. But it turned out differently. Her attempts to cope with the illness failed, the condition gradually worsened, the influence of enemies grew, and eventually Jammer removed her from command of the army. She remained only a decorative princess. He silently listens to her confession, looking into her face and not interrupting. On his face are sympathy and understanding. He feels the full weight of her experience. The girl continues to openly release her feelings from her soul, confessing bitter disappointment and a sense of uselessness. She has neither medical knowledge nor political acumen to justify the high expectations of her family. The boy gently reassures her. Not everyone is given to rule a country. He himself would not cope with the curse without the help of higher powers, and some things simply cannot be changed by the efforts of one person. The girl sincerely thanks him for the support and conversation. She says that it became a little easier for her to open up. He gently asks her not to fall into self-pity and assures her that she is not alone in her difficulties. The heroine smiles and sincerely admits that after the frank conversation, she really felt much better. At the same time, she apologizes for distracting him with her worries and problems. The boy was silent for some time, pondering her words. His silence spoke of the seriousness of the moment and the desire to find the right words for further support. Suddenly, with unexpected seriousness, he declares that politics is not his business at all, thereby showing that he does not consider himself an example in matters of power. But he immediately offers his help in what he is truly strong at, his medical knowledge. The girl reacts with surprise to this offer, feeling that a new opportunity is opening before her. After he unexpectedly stated that he would become her teacher, the boy smiled and confirmed his intention by offering Elaine to become his student, and she only asked in surprise, trying to understand what was happening. Training begins. The mentor announces the start of the lessons, and Olna, having already decided, responds energetically, calls him master, and eagerly prepares for the first lessons under his guidance. Meanwhile, Three Mints Tea and Kai whisper about what is happening. One reports that Zik has taken Alina as a student, and surprise and curiosity arise around. Zik's younger sister does not hide her shock. He is a veterinarian, and it is hard for her to believe that he decided to teach someone, especially in such an unexpected role. Kai notes with distrust that Olna does not look like a veterinarian at all, and this emphasizes the strangeness of what is happening, further increasing their surprise. Meanwhile, Mint assures that he can teach Alina many useful things and suggests starting with the simplest, emphasizing that learning should be gradual, step by step. Zik enthusiastically declared that he is starting training with the basics of rock climbing, and this surprised everyone even more, because they expected a completely different approach to learning. Against the backdrop of a steep cliff, Zik vividly explains his method. He does not start with theory but with practical skills. His sister mockingly teases him, thinking he is a bad teacher, but he does not back down. Zik shows Olna exactly how to start climbing the rock. He makes a light jump and teaches by example confidently and in practice. Zik skillfully and energetically climbs the rock, showing that his method is based on physical practice rather than usual theoretical lessons. Olna raises her eyes to the mountain with admiration and trepidation, realizing how difficult the task ahead will be, while behind her one of the girls watches her reaction and quietly shares a slight surprise. Zik jumped from the mountain and landed right next to the girls, demonstrating his determination to start training. His gesture instantly attracted the attention of everyone present and vividly emphasized the seriousness of beginning the training. The boy extends some object to Elaine, and she looks at him with slight surprise. She does not yet fully understand what he will show her, but is already ready to accept this knowledge. In Zik's palm, like a treasure, lies a rare flower, the snowdrop of Hina, which grows only above 800 meters. He explains that this plant helps to expel worms from the garage and can be used in veterinary practice. Zik explains that a veterinarian must be able to obtain the most diverse ingredients, sometimes even climbing to incredible heights to treat monsters that have gotten into hard-to-reach places. Olna listens attentively to the explanation and nods with each word. It becomes clearer to her how complex this profession is and how much responsibility it requires. Inspired, Olna soars upward on the wings of magic to get the needed ingredient, and Zik, noticing her haste, immediately shouted to her and stopped her. He sternly reminds her, magic can disrupt the natural balance and scare animals, so he insists get up on your own, without spells, and learn practical skills. Puzzled, Olna repeats the teacher's words to herself, anxiety visible on her face. Until now she was used to relying on magic rather than physical labor. Looking at the rock, she nervously asks herself if she can climb using only her hands. Her voice reveals confusion, because this way of climbing is unfamiliar and frightening to her. Everyone stood before the stone, a little puzzled and thoughtful, pondering how to cope with this task. Olna tries to climb the rock, but without success. She falls several times, while the mentor calmly watches her attempts. After several unsuccessful attempts, the teacher announced that the next part of the training would take place on the shore to change the environment and the task itself. He points to a small island and asks Elaine to imagine that a wounded unicorn lies there, then asks what she would do in such a situation. Olna realized that magic wouldn't help here, and this surprised her companions a little. They felt that the task was more difficult than it seemed. After a minute of thought, Olna says that in that case, she will try to swim to the island herself together with all magic. Zik asks Kai-chan to demonstrate how to properly cross the water so that Olna better understands the essence of the task. Kai-chan confidently agrees, emphasizing that she is an excellent swimmer and will easily handle it, lifting the mood of the whole squad. Alina is surprised by Kai-chan's sudden agility. She jumps into the water and swims confidently, but suddenly something happens to her, and she suddenly screams. In the water, Kai-chan encounters small water creatures that begin to interfere with her swimming. They cling to her and make her movements heavier. Olna looks anxiously at the lake, from which bubbles rise, and suddenly Shichin's scream is heard. It seems she got into trouble in the water, so Olna calls her friend, trying to understand what is happening. Zik calmly explains to Elaine that kelpies live in the lake and swimming there is very dangerous, and Shichin, who has already climbed ashore after the incident, shouts indignantly that it was much worse than Zik describes. Irritated, Kai-chan reproaches Zik. He knew it would end like this, but still asked her to go into the water. Zik calmly says he expected more caution. He hoped she would just enter the water, not jump. Kai-chan sits on the shore in wet clothes, rubbing her head and complaining about an unpleasant incident in the lake. Irritation is visible on her face, and she clearly makes it known that the encounter with the kelpie was very unpleasant. Kelpies have been misbehaving lately. Shichin, not wanting Alina to feel guilty, waved his hand and said that everything was fine. Olna, covering her face with her hands, begins to hit herself, calling herself a terrible princess who can't even manage her own subjects. Kai-chan tries to calm her down in response and shifts the blame onto Zik. Kai-chan thought for a long time about what happened and put forward an unexpected version. Maybe Zik deliberately arranged everything to see her wet, and now she doubts his intentions. Min suggests leaving Kai alone until she says something even more awkward, but Kai-chan stubbornly insists. If Zik wants to see her in action, she will show him everything herself. Bitter hostility unfolds between the girls. Kai-chan accuses her rival of being jealous of her mature charm, and in response, the rival assures him that she attracts her brother's attention with her intelligence. Zik, watching their quarrel, smiles and notes that although the girls constantly argue, they actually get along very well. The girls themselves, surprised, ask him, "What did you just say?" Returning to the beach, Zik with a slight smile says that everything is fine. He seems not too worried about the recently experienced difficulties and is calmly set on the next task. He does not back down and, looking her in the eyes, asks Elaine what she would do in a similar situation. From his expression, it is clear that he is clearly waiting for some thought or assumption that will make her think. She thinks aloud. If magic doesn't work and swimming doesn't help, then the matter becomes complicated, and Princess Tai supports her, calling it a real mystery. Zik approves of their line of thought and, laughing, confirms that they are on the right track. He is clearly pleased that the girls are beginning to analyze what is happening themselves, so he decides not to torment them for long and immediately give his correct answer. Returning, he steps away, throwing a brief and concise explanation and simply walks away. After these words, the main character, without any fuss, begins to walk straight on the water, and this slightly confuses the girls. Such a simple answer seems unexpected to them. Zik tells the girls that because of the kelpies in the water, the situation becomes more difficult, so to reach the island, they will simply have to walk on the water, and the girls on the shore, looking at him confusedly, ask how he plans to walk on water without magic. Zik turns around with an innocent expression, as if he himself is surprised by their reaction. The main character shows the girls how he carefully places his foot in the water and step by step moves forward. When one foot begins to sink, he doesn't even stop, he just keeps walking. The girls watch this with slight irritation. One says that her brother is a bad teacher, and another regrets having asked at all. This explanation seems absurd to her. Finally, an argument breaks out. Zik asks why not, and Kai-chan sharply replies that only he can do it, and the girls are annoyed by his special abilities. Olna is determined she's going to try to walk on water despite the difficulty of the task. The girls behind try to stop her, saying not to take her brother's words too seriously, but she is unwavering. Exclaiming excitedly that this is her challenge, Olna runs and jumps on the surface of the water, and her jumps thud loudly as she rushes forward, as if charging into battle. To everyone's surprise, Olna actually stays afloat, joyfully shouting about her victory, and in response, surprised exclamations are heard from others who did not expect such a result. Tiffany admires Olna's success enthusiastically and confidently believes that it is thanks to Zik. Mint, less confidently, tries to explain that it is not quite so. Suddenly it turns out that Olna is actually jumping on the heads of kelpies that have surfaced, and the demon princess gasps in surprise because she realizes it is not magic helping her, but the creatures themselves. The kelpies themselves joyfully congratulate Olna on her success, call her princess, and cheerfully celebrate her achievement, and are clearly not against such interaction. Olna asks the Kelpies a little awkwardly if they are helping her. One of them smiles and says he will do anything for her. Kelpies smile happily and say that they are simply having fun. They gladly help and rejoice seeing how happy Alina is. Zeke, observing the scene, quietly notes that the monsters do not seem to hate Alina as much as they could. She briefly nods and confirms his words. Kelpies gladly inform the princess that their thoughts are now clear before they were clouded. They rejoice that she is fine and greet her with gentle words. Having talked about the old curse, Zeke suggested that the way the monsters were confused in their heads could have been either an ancient spell or the effect of the silencer. Now that it is gone, everything will get better. The boy explains that now that the curse is lifted, the princess can finally establish a connection with the Kelpies, and adds that perhaps this is why she was previously avoided in the castle. The princess quietly nods in agreement. It is clear that she is pondering the reasons for what happened, and his words only confirm her suspicions. The Kelpies joyfully greet the princess and say they are happy to meet her. In response, the princess thanks them and adds that she is also glad to meet them. Zeke adds that the princess no longer needs to restrain her magic, and he is confident that she will get along better with the creatures than he does. One of the Kelpies, looking at the doctor with admiration, asks for his autograph. He smiles and willingly agrees, seeing no problem in it. The doctor begins to ask and inquires what the Kelpies are called. They reply that they do not have personal names, they are all simply Kelpies. The doctor is a little surprised, but the princess explains that Kelpies are not accustomed to giving themselves personal names. It is their common trait. Zeke's younger sister says that magical creatures usually do not have personal names. The doctor, hearing this, nods. Now everything is clear to him. To add some variety, the doctor began inventing names for them to his taste: baby Kelpie, handsome Kelpie, Kelpina, but those nearby considered it over the top. Zeke soberly notes that all they can do is criticize him, but others respond amicably. The name he gave is easy for the children to remember, some even like it, and the sister adds that her brother has his weaknesses. Suddenly Zeke notices something strange and turns around stunned. He looks ahead with surprise and anxiety, trying to understand what is happening, and directs his gaze upward to where something unexpected is unfolding.